for Drainers all map.
Bearclaw Gaming, they're still in the same composition essentially, but they have the Orisa now, which is a little bit better at controlling space in these tighter angles than the Sigma, who would definitely struggle against the Reinhardt. But in this kind of 1v1, this is where Kindred thrives. It's going to be so difficult for Garchomp to find any purchase here, but with that wall sectioning Kindred off, they might have just found something.
Oh, that immortality from Zeppa bought Kindred a lot of time, eventually got moved out of it, and Drainers, you thought they were safe. 20%. I was just saying how they might have won the first fight of Oasis, but Bearclaw Gaming, because they didn't die, Drainers, well, the re-engage happened too soon, and Drainers lost too many people.
Kindred's actually going to make a swap over onto the Zarya, so we're seeing a little bit of tank rock, paper, scissors here. The Sigma didn't work, now Garchomp's on the Orisa. The Rein didn't work, so now Kindred is on the Zarya. We'll have to see if they're able to build up to anything, our Drainers, but, I mean, they have to try and leverage this window from Zep turn, but the one from Shush is going to come out quicker.
Oh, the immortality from Zep might buy them a lot of value, a lot of extra time to use that Amp Matrix, and look at the flanks from Drainers. Bearclaw that have no place to run. They have to take this fight. KQA knows this, pops the sound barrier, and what a turnaround. Garchomp with the Terra Surge might have evened things up in the fight.
I've never seen that like on a broadcast before. That's a Terra Surge to pull two members off of the point, and it was an incredible play. One of my favorite moments of all time, but it didn't really work out in the end, actually. Drainer still managed to flip the point, still had Kindred alive to melt down the last remaining members of Bearclaw Gaming, and Drainers are getting themselves back on the board. This early artillery strike to try and slow Bearclaw's re-engage.
Oh, you do not want to be in a corner like that, KJ. Trap Dynamic. You got this 5v4 for Drainers, and you gotta grab. You don't want to invest anything, but Bearclaw also overstayed their welcome. It will be Drainers taking that lead, and okay, well, Kindred gets out easily, and able to keep that charge is important, but Drainers also bought themselves more time.
Now that wall may be a little bit scary, but there had already been too many bodies that hit the floor for Kindred to even really be all that afraid of it. And why would you be afraid when you still have your Sound Barrier, you still have your Graviton Surge, you have everything you need to counter what Bearclaw Gaming is coming at you with, you just have to execute here.
Alright, the Uno reverse card there by Bion. It's gonna force out some cooldowns, maybe some initial bubbles there by Kindred. Dynamic places the Blizzard. No, Kindred gets sped out. Wanna play from Wicca, and then answers right back to that May of Dynamic that was advancing to play off of that Blizzard. And no, you're not going anywhere. Kindred places the grab and is hunting for more. Drainer's gonna even throw the Sound Barrier on top because this is all she wrote, 93% plus. It'll be up to KQA to touch.
I mean, it seems pretty much academic at this point. Yeah, KQA is going to get the touch, but is going to get the mega health back, actually. I was going to say it's going to get melted down, but there is no second touch. So as great as that touch was from KQA, it doesn't really amount to all that much. And that fight, I'm so glad that you called out that Wicca was able to save Kindred, not with a Sound Barrier, but with a speed boost to just get her out of the Blizzard, which just means that she still has the Sound Barrier to go aggressive and clean up the tail end of that fight. It just feels like even if Drainers had somehow lost that fight, or if Bearclaw Gaming somehow had enough time for another fight, that still having that Sound Barrier available means that Drainers, they won this more than just like, it should have been 100-0. Bearclaw Gaming should have lost their percentage with how decisive that was. And now we go to the true decider map, which is going to be Gardens, which is actually interesting because I personally feel like the map geometry kind of favors both of these comps. We could see a situation like University or City Center depending on who gets control of the high ground first. And with the aid of the Symmetra TP, it might just be Drainers.
Yeah, Drainers will have that favorable position first. And having that Lucio of Wicca be on top of that wall too, like Bearclaw don't even want to chance it. Just getting separated or potentially just killed by the environment is tough. The Symmetra also allows an entry option, an engage option if they ever do want to drop down, which would not be the smartest of ideas, but Kindred knows that, well, they can't really contribute to this fight unless they play close, and maybe identifying that Kindred is close enough. Bearclaw want to deal with that Reinhardt, but there is so much armor, but now that Kindred's in that bad position, the immortality is dropped by Zed, it's just enough healing to keep Kindred standing and holding that choke, and Garchomp got a little greedy for that kill and will drop. Bearclaw don't have a tank and will not have a fight.
The positioning from Drainers is just so great there because they counteract Bear Claw Gaming's entire composition just by having Kindred sitting up there around that corner, trying to bait Bion and Garchomp to overcommit to try and get her down, but it just doesn't happen because there's too much high ground pressure. The immortality fields from Zepturn have been on point, and Bear Claw Gaming cannot safely poke their heads in, but they're gonna do a little bit more than poking with this Ant Matrix.
With this Ant Matrix plus the wall, Kindred got sped out. Around the pillar too, Kindred lives all thanks to their supports. But Garchomp just isn't able to take that pressure that the Reinhardt can. The shield, the Matrix, more, and Kindred is an unstoppable force against these moving objects. Bear Claw running for the hills.
And it's like I said, with the Sigma composition, that choke is not where you want to be as the Sigma. You want to be in control of the point on the high ground so you can poke from afar. But yeah, Drainers, they just continually bait Bear Claw Gaming in. Bear Claw take the bait and they fall every time. Now they have to make the swap over onto the Orisa just to try and make something happen. But Kindred might just have a shatter with Garchomp's name on it.
Oh, you got a front face. No! That wall had it coming, I swear. Bit of a weird sidestep there by Kindred, but the Fortify was going to be tough to go up against anyway, including the Ice Block from Dynamic. This Bastion from KJ needs some help. Good step up there by Kindred. The Bastion of Bion sprays and sprays on top of Drainers, who have not been even scared enough to use the sound air. That is amazing patience from Drainers.
I mean, it is amazing patience, and they still have that sound barrier on the board for this Blizzard that Dynamic is going to have to invest here. It does come out, and Kindred falls, but the sound barrier is a little late.
Yeah, if you know that Blizzard is coming, you almost want to take that early engage into sound barrier early if you're Wicca, because Kindred evaporated. You don't need a sizing green to see what happened to them. Now goes to the Zarya and Bear Claw are back on the point, but 97% is quite a hill to climb.
That Zarya to me kind of feels like a rage swap, like an I just lost my shatter. I just lost my sim too. KQA just gonna go ahead and take that away. That's a really late stagger, by the way. But like Kindred's Rhine play, the fundamentals have been phenomenal, but the shatters have been, to be polite, a bit tragic at times. Very unfortunate with some of the wall placement from a lot of the maze and I guess the developers when they built the map. So, you know, swapping over to the Zarya, especially to counter the Orisa, that tank rock, paper, scissors, it still makes sense. But with Bear Claw having control of the high ground and Bion up here raining out all of this damage, it's going to be so hard to crack even with the Zarya.
Yeah, the Zarya is just going to melt through this Orisa if they can build up charge towards it. Remember, the Symmetra can be a way to enter, but the Ant Matrix, I think Yves stepped up a little too far and should have really relied on the poke to maybe win them an advantage. But hey, they got a few picks, but they stepped right into the Terra Surge. That put a huge dent into Drainers, but Kindred has been growing in power, and the bubble's beautifully placed onto KJ to assist in entry. And they take that back from Bear Claw with still ults remaining, 99%. Who will be there to touch? Not KQA, not nobody. Map 1 goes to Drainers.
And again, it's just like I was saying, that very aggressive in-your-face style that we've seen time and time again from Drainers. The Zarya is a new look, and one that I think is coming out mostly from necessity because of Garchomp's Orisa. That Terra Surge, specifically this Terra Surge right here, was absolutely bananas. I've never seen that before on a live broadcast. KQA even with a nice little boop there onto Zepturn to be the icing on the cake there. That was glorious. It was beautiful. But it didn't net Bear Claw Gaming the win there. Thank you for Garchomp for putting on a show, but we're going to have to put some wins on the board next time. But with their map pick, they can go somewhere a little bit less Drainers favored, where they can't play that aggressive in-your-face Smash Mouth style where they just chip you down, they just burn you down, or in the case of Gardens, force you to overcommit and take the bait and punish it.
Yeah, Garchomp, I think started off the series, really this map, very well in the Sigma, good control, good patience on how to approach too. But then once Trader stepped up and played a much quicker, more pressurized really fight and composition, that's where Garchomp got a little overwhelmed, had to go to the Orisa for a more anchor style tank, which really this series went back and forth. I like the Zarya swaps, just the rock, paper, scissors mindset of Drainers to always swap. Just have to be careful of how greedy you want to jump into these kills or how you want to use these ultimates. I was a fan of Kindred and pulling the trigger and making these decisions. Yves just has to be a little bit careful on the Symmetra jumping ahead of the tank.
If there's one thing Kindred is great at, it's not Earth Shatters, unfortunately. I love her, but that shatter I can't. Like that was, I'm gonna say she was booped. I'll say that the Lucio got in position and she got boops knocked over to the side, and that's what happened. I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt, but pulling the trigger is something that she is great at, and you can see from her damage it doesn't look like a whole lot, but that's because 0 deaths just as Zarya. This is just as Zarya. So there was definitely a couple of deaths on the Junker Queen on City Center, which, I mean, interesting that the Junker Queen was a choice for City Center, but regardless, she's great at making these aggressive decisions, going in super, super aggressive and having the team at her back to throw in the Immortality Fields aggressively, to throw in all the healing and all the follow-up damage from the Bastion, from the Sojourn, from whatever the DPS core is. They're a very flexible team, our Drainers, and we're seeing that in spades right now so far. Is there going to be an answer for Bear Claw Gaming? With that level of flexibility and that level of preparedness, how do you slow the tempo and snatch control away from Drainers with your map pick?
That'll be, I think you answered that question earlier of just you avoid the rush maps. And even when you did go to rush points, I think there are so many ways to counter rush that's why there's so little Overwatch League teams that have really gone through with it. When we all thought this was going to be a Reinhardt Zarya meta, that everyone went away from that. There is always a way to counter rush. And it's all about, how close does the rush stay together? Because we noticed a lot with the Junker Queen comps, you would have the queen that calls speed and goes in and would be the only one there, or would think, oh, this person's 1 HP, and would step a little too far forward to finish off that kill and find themselves between a Mei wall and a Sigma in a hard place. So you just gotta be together as a team. Which, there were some times where even Yves on the Genji was getting picked just with the random Mei icicles. So the picks onto Drainers weren't helping their rush situation either.
Well, I mean, yeah, the rush situation it's kind of Drainers' whole shtick. Like it's their bread and butter. They're flexible, but that is what they want to play, whatever the variation is. And if avoiding the rush map was the assignment, I don't think Bear Claw Gaming did their homework, because their map pick is going to be Midtown, which that first point especially is quite rush friendly, especially if you're going to have the Sim teleport, get the Reinhardt, get the Junker Queen around a little bit quicker, kind of, make your way through that choke a little bit easier. Second point is great for the Sigma play that I think Bear Claw Gaming want to lean on, but what is the strategy here? Like, what do you go for if you're trying to play into Drainers on Midtown?
Well, for Midtown, this is a very strong map for Orisa and Sigma, which has been Garchomp's bread and butter. It's just, how are you going to play the Sigma, and how are you going to give up that space to the rush? Because eventually, I feel like Drainers adapted and overcame that Sigma by just running them down. You cannot just shoot the Sigma shield and play the shield break. Sigma takes pressure, takes a lot of damage very well. It's how you can punish the Sigma once maybe that shield does break, or can you get past that shield? And that is incredibly difficult to do on the Midtown overpass going to the point. So I'm expecting either Orisa or Sigma, depending on if Garchomp feels like Sigma can sustain itself at the front.
I think the second point that we just, hovered over, there it is, that's the one. This is kind of where I think Garchomp wants to live, try and control the most space, this little high ground right here, because this is where Sigma absolutely shines. I do also kind of want to go back to why we're seeing most of the Sigma rush, and I think that has to do a lot with Bastion specifically. It seems so simple to think about, but Sigma is not actually attached to his shield the way that Reinhardt is, so when Bastion melts down your shield, suddenly there's a big German man behind it that's also going to have to take a bunch of the damage. And if you're Reinhardt, you don't want that at all. That's death. That's all that is. But if you're Sigma, there's a little bit of distance there. You also have the grasps. You can absorb a little bit of the damage, back yourself up, recharge your shield, keep the aggression up, and control the angles. That's why I believe this comp has started to come to fruition. But Drainers, despite Kindred being adept on the Sigma as well, they just want to be aggressive. That's all they know. It is who they are. They bleed aggression.
And to quote Hottie there, every map is a Reinhardt map, which Kindred is on that. What's important between the Reinhardt Sigma matchup is that Kindred can't just stay idle and play like a Sigma. It has to be engage heavy. You have to swing at the Sigma, push them away as much as possible. With the Bastion, Garchomp has to play corners very intelligently, or they will just evaporate like they did before.
I think Kindred has that hottie quote tattooed on her forearm, specifically her mouse forearm, so she can see it all the time. If she ever gets demotivated, she can just look at her arm and say, oh yeah, it's a Reinhardt map. We've got this. And they're gonna play super aggressive just like they've always been doing. She took a look at her forearm, said, yeah, this is a Reinhardt map. We're gonna go aggressive. We're not even gonna let Bear Claw Gaming get set up in the choke.
Bear Claw have more pick potential with the Sojourner Bion too. So Drainers have to wait for that tank cooldown there of the Bastion. Dynamic is gonna get around the deflect right in the face of that Bastion. Has to be careful, and now dives to that. Oh, you gotta wait for the immortality to be out, because once you're committed like that and you don't have the dash reset, you're a sitting duck and also a dead duck at the end. So Drainers will have their defense stand tall and Bear Claw set back.
It's a little bit wild though, because like for a while their Drainers looked a little bit split. Like you could see Zepturn was playing really far back, KJ and Kindred were in different zip codes. I think that might have been a little bit of bait, and I think Dynamic took the bait and got snapped in the jaws of it. It's a trap. It was a trap. They fell for it, and now Kindred has the shatter. Zepturn's got the window. This is gonna definitely slow down the pace for Bear Claw Gaming. There is no pace. It's been slowed down even more. A nice pick off there from KJ, and
oh, shatter. Oh my god, run!
I can see the shatter. I mean, no, she doesn't need it. She doesn't need it. When you have this level of aggression, you don't even need the shatter. It's cosmetic.
Oh god. I would be screaming in Cobbs if I was Bear Claw Gaming. This Rider is just stomping past my tank like that.
It's so hard to deal with, and like because of all the damage and all the aggression, Drainers have all their ultimates, and this is gonna get even more and more difficult for Bear Claw Gaming to crack through, especially if they keep bleeding players early. You gotta stop it.
Well, this is exactly what we wanted out of Kindred. Don't play like a Sigma, play like Hottie would want you to, and it's W key, press the mouse button to hammer down Bear Claw Gaming, and they still have a shot. They still have 4 ultimates.
I mean, yeah, they do invest the window there from Zepturn, and all it really does is slow Bear Claw down a little bit more, but they're running out of time. They're gonna invest a window of their own, but Kindred wants to charge just right through it.
KDM Matrix doesn't stop this bulldozer, or maybe they did. Drainers step back, and Bear Claw have made their way through the choke. They have left the defense behind, which I think Yves might have TP'd them behind. They will TP them back towards the point and have denied that first ticket. 2 bodies on top of it. 1 shatter, 2 supports, and a sound barrier on top for Drainers just for that insurance. They deny the first pick.
Okay, every bad shatter that Kindred has had this tournament, I think she just redeemed with that charge into the backline, shatter onto both backliners, and then following it up with 2 more. That's a 4K for her. What an insane play. That's just Bear Claw Gaming did kind of flip the roles a little bit, got themselves on the point, nearly capped, but Drainers just issued them a cease and desist, and I mean, they've used all their ults to do it, but Bear Claw Gaming, they're still running out of time.
Oh, Bion putting the fear in their eyes, but the Overclaw connects with Zep. Goodbye to your supports again, Drainers. Bear Claw, this had to be the fight. You have 30 seconds, and there's still so much more Midtown to see.
Yeah, a lot more to see, and Kindred is going to want to see all of it. She's swapping to the Doomfist. Is she there's no way she's actually going for a contest here.
Oh no, I hear it.
Yeah, she's in.
Oh no, Bion's in trouble. The sound barrier KQA saved her. Bear Claw has still have to deal with this Doomfist, but they're also split. Their focus is also on the reinforcements, and Yves has killed Bion. Zep has killed Guardshop. There's only 2 players left of Bear Claw, and now nobody! Drainers, the retake, to cause chaos in their favor. Bear Claw will not be capping the point.
That was, I mean, I wasn't even sure Kindred was going to be able to get the touch there. I thought the Doomfist swap came in too late, but she gets the touch, baits out the sound barrier, and by the time the overhealth is gone, all the DPS players from Drainers who have also swapped to fast heroes, they get on the point and they just shut it down. That felt like Bear Claw Gaming's fight to win, their point to win. You said there was a lot more Midtown to see. Kindred didn't want to let them see any of it. No sightseeing tour. Your bus stops here, get off, no tourists.
And I think there must have been some kind of confusion in the calls for Bear Claw, because when you see that Doomfist block, instinctively you want to not shoot it, because then the stuns, the damage, it's going to hurt a lot more. But then obviously some people thought that Doomfist is killable, and sometimes you can shoot that block because the Doomfist is still taking damage, just not as much. So some Bear Claw members were shooting the Doomfist, some were shooting at the healers behind them. And when you have a split focus like that, and the Doomfist gets their cooldowns again about the 5-6 second mark, then the Doomfist can sustain and keep going. And Bear Claw shouldn't have panicked, should have just taken it from front to back, deal with the Doomfist, and then Drainers wouldn't have had someone to push in without that Doomfist.
It's that same kind of mentality that like early players would take for Zarya when they see the bubble go up. They're like, no, don't shoot it. You're just gonna charge her up. What are you doing? But then they forget that, like, you know, you can put in enough damage to kill the Zarya if you just hard focus her. But I digress. Kindred, what are you doing? What? This is not in the script. Okay, what are you doing?
A little scouting.
Yeah. It's okay. It's got to be scouting. All right, it has to be. Yeah. Okay. She's gonna go on the Zarya. She sees the Orisa from Garchomp and says, "This is the answer. It's what got us the wins on Oasis. This is how we're gonna proceed forward." Same rush composition, but just winning that tank rock paper scissors and an early TP rotate to take the fight on their terms.
Yeah. That Zarya's gonna laser that Orisa down, and Garchomp not opting for the Sigma against that Bastion. It's difficult to play these corners sometimes. You don't get enough support, you get overwhelmed, and Drainers wanted to engage off the TP. Maybe it was a fake, maybe they got blown off the teleport. Either way, Kindred is isolated thanks to that Maywall of Dynamic, and Bear Claw Gaming trying to get through this and deal with Kindred. They have, both tanks are removed. 4 versus 4, and again, once you deal with Kindred from Drainers, it's tough for them to make any space, and Bear Claw are learning from that mistake.
I mean, KJ can still make a fair bit of space with all that damage, and Bear Claw Gaming can't really collapse on the rest of Drainers. And speaking of Drainers, Kindred is back on the Doomfist again. She's going for the fast heroes because she thinks this is winnable.
Oh, the ice block from Dynamic was slightly off the point, but they're walling themselves off, and Bear Claw Gaming come around the corner, was not expecting the Bastion to unload like that. And Drainers just need that 60 or that 82.6%, and you're already waving goodbye. Dynamic is so close to Blizzard and will not be able to get it off. And here is some bombs being thrown down, because the real bomb was Drainers now going to match point.
Those weren't bombs, those were fireworks in celebration of Drainers pulling out a miracle hold at the end there. But it just feels so silly the way that they captured the point there, right? Like, they lose both tanks, Kindred and Garchomp both down, but KJ's just able to control space with the Bastion. Nobody from Bear Claw can commit onto the last remnants, so Kindred just goes Doomfist to get back in the fight at roughly the same time as Garchomp. The damage from KJ still comes down, and Bear Claw Gaming just never really felt like they were in this map, and that was their map pick, and it didn't work out. Like I said, you know, you can't try and play against Drainers in a rush style map. I would have liked to see them go to maybe something like Numbani as well, where you can play the rush, but it's suboptimal and you're more favored in that Sigma mirror. But Midtown was just curious, top to bottom, curious how Drainers managed to hold, how they managed to cap, and why we were even here. What are we doing here, Bear Claw?
Just the May of Dynamic is for a more slower tempo, I would say. Like, they really didn't have a chance to Maywall something and really assure that kill before the Maywall would get shot down, and then you would have this trade of tank. I think that Maywall to isolate Kindred was fantastic, but then when you lost Garchomp, who just had to full commit for that kill, then Bear Claw didn't have much to contest the point with at the end. You had Dynamic, who maybe missed Ice Block on the point, and then it was tough. I think they needed to match fire with fire. Having their own Bastion, I think, was a good idea from Bion, but not having anything else, like another source of damage, May's just not enough.
So speaking of damage, let's have a look at the damage stat from KJ there. That doesn't look like a lot, but consider how fast this map was and how swiftly everything in front of her died, and suddenly it all starts to make sense. Only 1 death for KJ, and I think that might have been on Drainer's defense while everybody was, scrambling, switching to fast heroes and trying to get back. That might have been what led to that one death in particular, but outside of that, she was untouched and was putting out a whole lot of hurt onto the entirety of Bear Claw Gaming, which is interesting because, like I said, Drainers like to go for this rush style, but also with the pick heavy heroes, with the Sojourn, with the Echo, with all these other heroes that are not Mei Bastion, but they can play Mei Bastion, they can play Sim Bastion, they can control space with them as well, and that helps feed into their pure, raw, unbridled aggression that Bear Claw Gaming still don't really have an answer for. They tried something, they threw something at the wall to see if Midtown would stick, and it did not.
I was a fan of just Drainers seem to be really well studied up on the game, knowing what their counters are around the Orisa Zarya, bringing out the Reinhardt just to be able to get back to the point sooner. You got the Sojourn for the pick potential that you brought out, and Garchomp is trying to figure out where their place is in the fight, in the composition, right? Just going to either Sigma, which gets run over, going to Orisa, which just gets melted, and if your tank is just going to be taking that much damage, but they are buying you a lot of time, then it's up to the DPS behind Garchomp to deliver the kills that all this time is being used for. So I think it is such a close tank matchup, but it's coming down to the DPS, it's coming down to the matrix timings and stuff like that. But this is still an exciting match despite it being match point for Drainers.
Well, I mean, this is where Bear Claw Gaming thus far in the lower bracket have thrived, though. They're very much so a we only scrim the second half of the series kind of team, it would seem, with their history of reverse sweeps here. The unbridled aggression from Drainers doesn't stop, but it does take a couple of breaks here, and we're going to throw to a quick break for a second, be right back, and we'll have map 3. It's Bear Claw Gaming's map pick. Do they start the reverse sweep? We'll find out. Does the underdog story of Bear Claw Gaming end here, or does the reverse sweep that they have pulled off time and time again in the lower bracket start here? There is only one way to find out. Welcome back. It is time for map 3 of Drainers versus Bear Claw Gaming. Bear Claw Gaming's map pick, and they have chosen to take us to Surasa.
Ooh. It is pretty rush heavy. I mean, most push maps are, but Drainers being on match point to be able to make a call like retaking on Midtown to force Bearclaw to not even cap the point. Like, Drainers almost, you could tell by the way they played, they know that they're the better team. Nobody recontests at that point with a Doomfist unless you're crazy like Drainers. And the fact they pulled it off is just so incredible to see. We go to Surasa now. A lot of teams, oh, sorry, Flashpoint, right? My brain has been on holidays. There's a lot of things that have to do with how close your spawn is, of course, but how quickly you can get to them. This is where Junker Queen Lucio could be coming back if they feel it's something they could pull off, which we haven't seen since Oasis.
I do also feel like, to your point, it also has a lot to do with how quickly you can retake, which we've seen that Drainers can do quite well because they feel like they're the better teams. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that, I feel like, with Flashpoint is conducive to success, because it ticks up so fast, that percentage. So if you lose the point, you only have a split second to try and get back in there and win it all back. And that's something that Drainers have shown they're capable of doing if they're even put in that situation. It's kind of up to Bear Claw Gaming to push Drainers, put them behind the 8 ball, and make them have to make those moves and then execute on it. That's the hard part, because Drainers are scrappy. They are aggressive, and they want to rely on simply being the better mechanical players, and it has worked out for them thus far.
Yes, if you do play that Junker Queen, I know an important hero to pair with that is the Genji, which we've seen more from Yves, I want to say, on the trainer side of things. Bearclaw have been kind of going everywhere from Mei to a bit of Sojourn there from Bion to some Bastion of their own. Bearclaw seem very fluid, but what can they be the masters of? And I think if you do go with the Junker Queen, having a Genji is so important to give that overhealth over to that assassin to go in and get that pick, but most importantly, not commit to a Baptiste if they have immortality. That was something that our teams learned the hard way on Midtown.
Yeah, that would be dynamic. Poor fella. Poor they. Trying to go
Poor
on
they.
Poor they. Trying to go on a Baptiste who still had immortality field. Definitely a no-no as far as Genji Swift Strike usage is concerned. Dynamics Genji has traditionally been pretty solid overall, though. That felt like a rare misstep, and it might be just that Bear Claw Gaming are feeling as though they're under a lot of pressure right now. They're one map away from getting eliminated from the tournament. They've had to fight for their lives throughout the entire playoff bracket. They feel very much so like the underdog team. They have the potential to do great things, but they just have to close it out. Garchomp and Dynamic are the 2 players on this team that I want to focus on, because if anyone is going to do it for them, it's going to be that tank DPS duo of Garchomp and Dynamic. Meanwhile, Drainers, I mean, Kindred has just been in the driver's seat. Wicca has been putting her foot on the gas to help everything move swiftly, move as quickly, break as many things as possible. And Bear Claw Gaming, they still are trying to find an answer for it.
I feel like supports never get enough love in competitive play, but Wicca and KQA have had such impactful sound barriers, just reminiscing back to Oasis, saving their fights, saving namely their tanks, because we've talked a lot about how it's been the battle between Garchomp and Kindred when it comes to tanks, but yes, maybe Kindred is swapping to things that is countering Garchomp, but Garchomp is able to live that long because of their supports as well. So it's what now the DPS can deliver during those moments that is really going to stand out. And Drainers have just been having that edge in the later stages of the fight. Now you got 2 speed options. You got a Symmetra there from Yves. I'm expecting Drainers to be in position first.
Thank you for the pause, by the way. Players, so we can actually take a moment to appreciate the supports and give them the love that you you felt that they never quite get. But we got to give a little bit of love to Yves with that Sim TP that's already going to set Drainers up quite nicely, but Bear Claw Gaming actually meeting them at the pass here. It's gonna have to come down to which Bastion ends up putting out the most damage first and which tank is forced to back off, but Yves wants to try and take the high ground.
That was interesting for the Bastion to go up there too when Bion is just taking right clicks there from Yves. Drainers are taking angles around this. Bear Claw are so low, and KQA wanted to stay involved in that fight to help guide Bion back in. And man, Drainers are just all surrounding them, and Bear Claw decide to step up and push into that tank of Kindred while they, well, weren't getting assisted as much. So Bear Claw are able to get some trades through at least being decisive enough to push forward, and Drainers taking these weaker angles all around meant they didn't have a strong side to hold on to.
Yeah, I mean, Yves was kind of wreaking havoc there on the sim, being a little bit annoying, but Bear Claw Gaming with the tried and true tactic of if someone's being annoying, just ignore them. They instead just charge forward, utilize the Bastion, get the early pickoffs, and just melt down the rest of Drainers. And now Bear Claw Gaming are in a great position. They are in a defensible position. They've got the Orisa. Kindred has made the swap back over onto the Zarya. With that Ant Matrix, she can't stick around.
Kindred has no fear. Just staring down that Amp Matrix, bubbles up, jumps behind Drainers, jumps behind Bear Claw, who decide to just leave the party. Now it's a free cap for Drainers. But KQA's not gonna let this go for free. They speed the team in. Garchomp with the Terra Surge. The Sound Barrier from Wicca saves Kindred, allows them to leave the fight. But now Drainers are so split from each other. Bear Claw will easily retake the point thanks to this giant anchor of Orisa. With his immortality in the way, though, it's been a little bit difficult to kill these members. Garchomp is just causing chaos, hoping someone will kill the immortality. And that is what kept Drainers alive for so long. So again, big shout out to Zep there.
Yeah, huge shout outs to Zep for keeping Kindred alive. Also shout out to Yves for that photon barrier that came through at the last possible second. I think that might have even been from spawn before they were actually back in the fight. And we got to go back to Kindred. Right as I was saying, oh, the Ant Matrix comes out, she doesn't want to stick around. No, she just goes around, uses a nice little Zarya jump there with the right click to get up behind the Ant Matrix, pump out all the damage, and just throw Bear Claw Gaming's whole plan into disarray. And now, Drainers have the defensible position. They've nearly capped the point. Bear Claw have to come correct this fight.
Oh, that Bastion ult actually forced the jump out of KJ on the Sojourn, and Kindred got walled, doesn't really care. Throws the Graviton down, and Bear Claw still managed to fight back despite being trapped, but Kindred is so charged up. Bear Claw, I'm surprised they've lived ignoring them for this entire time. Now Bion is barely being protected. Kindred steps up, and what a body block from Garchomp. Bion lives.
Okay, that was a nice little comedic angle there. 15 HP for Bion. Kindred wanted that Bastion dead so bad, and as someone who's delved into tank play a little bit recently, relatable. I too want that guy dead every time I see him. Garchomp also going to get a little bit too low there though.
This is the last fight, and Bear Claw are at 99, and Drainers have a Lucio harassing them behind. Are they gonna commit ultimates? It's the Ant Matrix from Zep versus the one from Shush, and Bear Claw are just stuck in the middle of all this pain, and Drainers are retaking. It's the emergency Doomfist that came back, but Bion with the double kill gives them a chance at life, but Yves shuts that down. Also 2 or 3 kills coming out of Zep saves that point for Drainers.
Yeah, that was Zepturn's point. I mean, you had all the hero swaps coming out from Drainers and all the recontests, even Kindred coming back on the Doomfist, but it was Zepturn that was the rock on that point that whole time, pumping out the healing, keeping everybody alive, but more importantly, pumping out the damage, dishing out the death, and stopping Bear Claw Gaming in their little bear tracks. And now, those tracks gotta lead to the second point. Drainers go up, taking the first one, and they've already got favorable position on the next one.
All right, Kindred holding the choke there. See Drainers have a Sound Barrier if they want to take an early fight. They want to also hold this for the Gravitic Flux, and Garchomp hasn't unleashed it yet, seeing what they can find off of the engage. And now the Gravitic Flux comes out, focused on that tank, but Kindred is saved once again by Zep in that immortality field. But Kindred is so low, and Bear Claw are just trying to poke their way in, but now allowing too much time for Drainers to heal back up and unleash with an ultimate of their own. Yves with 2 with the back for a third, and Drainers dominate the first fight.
They just understand completely all of their win conditions at any given moment. They pop the Sound Barrier, go aggressive, get the early pick off onto Bion. The Gravitic Flux comes out from Garchomp. That's when the Immortality Field is used from Zepturn, and when all of the resources from Bear Claw Gaming have been used up, that's when Yves goes in with a Dragon Blade. That is clinical, surgical Overwatch, and as scrappy as it looks from Drainers, there's a method to the madness, and they execute it perfectly, but Kindred might be getting executed next.
Yeah, ideally, the primary fire is cute. The maybe allow Kindred to not.
That's 5 players
speed
on
out,
1 kill.
But, you know, more kills or more damage will come out with the icicles as well. But Bion is always someone you could depend on. Oh my God, we just saw that May's eyes shut with that Genji diving in. It's 92% plus. You might see Bear Claw's eyes shutting soon because that'll be round point, match point for Drainers. And Bear Claw is still trying to contest. It's Garchomp and KQA. And oh, the backhand of the law from KJ coming in. This has been their point all along.
I told the audience, like, when we started, like, please keep your eyes on Kindred. I want to speak directly to Bear Claw Gaming. Please take your eyes off of Kindred now, because there's still 4 other threats that you need to be wary of. They go super aggressive. I call out like a 5-person assist onto just that 1 kill for Kindred, but then you got Yves and KJ at your backs, pumping in damage and getting all of these picks. And Bear Claw Gaming, you look at their ults, yeah, they got a lot of them, but they weren't given a chance to use them because they were too hyper-focused on just trying to take down the Junker Queen. You can't dethrone the Queen and not expect the followers to rise back up.
At least we can expect Bear Claw Gaming to be comfortable. They had closer spawns. And how will they cap? It's a few more seconds. You see Garchomp has the shield up. And here's the Rampage
huge.
right in. Gets 3 of Bear Claw. And now they place the Blizzard to stop the follow-up from Drainers. And Bion shooting heads. Great overclock. That's a great first pick. But now as the dice settle, Bear Claw Gaming survived the Rampage while Drainers didn't have a take. They got split from each other, but wait! Drainers, as they got pushed into, KJ gets enabled for success.
I was gonna say for Drainers, that engagement was just pure stonks. You invest the Rampage, and you get out the Overclock, the Sound Barrier, and the Blizzard. Even if Drainers had lost that fight, that still would have been a dub, but they somehow flip it at the tail end of it, and now, not only is it stonks, not only have you bled out Bear Claw Gaming's ult economy, you now have control of the point, and once again, Bear Claw Gaming are having to make swaps to try and just find a way in, find a way to sit comfortably. Drainers refuse to let them sit comfortably for even a moment. They're back on the Sigma now. Garchomp has the Gravitic Flux. What are they going to do with it? It looks like they want Kindred dead.
Okay, well, at least the Maywall guarantees that Kindred is gonna take some firepower from the Gravitic Flux, but they still live. Salary from Wicca allows Drainers to engage in overwhelmment to Bear Claw once again, Bear Claw want that slow tempo off of the May, and Drainers are so fast, they will not let Bear Claw breathe.
I mean, Bear Claw, right now they just feel outclassed, and this is panic swap mode. A Reinhardt, a Moira, a Reaper. I'm not even sure what their win condition is anymore. I think they just want to get to the point fast, pump out as much damage as possible, but with only 5% left at 95 and ticking, are they even going to touch? KQA tries to sneak in the back door and can't get there in time.
That is it. Drainers are going to your lower bracket final with a sweep against Bear Claw Gaming and a sweep on Surasa on Bear Claw Gaming's map pick. And Yves came alive this map. The 3K Blade. We've been seeing them get stalked by immortalities, stalked by random icicles, and they got their revenge in the end.
Like I said, Bear Claw Gaming just overall feel outclassed on a mechanical level and on a fundamental level by Drainers. This is why I've been touting Drainers as one of the potential favorites. That top 3, that triad of Washington Timeless, Valiant Guardians, and Drainers. And that's what our podium is going to look like in any particular order. That's our top 3. Bear Claw Gaming had a chance to crack into it, but they weren't able to crack through Drainers, who swept them in the early playoff rounds, swept them in Swiss, and are going to sweep them again here. A quick 3-0, and it honestly, outside of Oasis City Center, never really felt like it was in Bear Claw Gaming's favor. Drainers were always 2 steps ahead and changing the questions every time Bear Claw Gaming even came close to finding an answer.
Yeah, we said Drainers had just really great counter swaps, but also played a bit closer to the meta. They had multiple win conditions off of really just KJ in the neutral being able to get picks, which they have multiple times, to Yves forcing out either cooldowns with the blades or just their presence. Like, even if you die to the immortality, you still get the immortality out. And then once Yves had those cooldowns out of the picture, that's when you saw her just unleash. Bear Claw just could not stop them. You had Shush and KQA try their best with the Sound Bears, try to swap the healers that would live through the fight longer, but at the end, the May was just not enough of a win condition for Bear Claw to isolate that tank, and really even the Blizzard stopped anyone when you could just go and speed around it.
And they were trying so hard to isolate that tank from top to bottom. Like, even in the closing moments of that fight, you saw the Gravitic Flux come out, like you said, trying to isolate Kindred. But while she's up in the sky, nobody was looking at KJ. And KJ just took Bion's head off with a rail shot. And suddenly, you know, you're investing ultimates, and Draeners just took out your DPS for free. What do you even do? You're already behind the 8-ball there. It's, like I said, Draeners just feel 2 steps ahead at all time, and they have stepped up. They are now going on to our next round to face off against Valiant Guardians for the opportunity to face off against Washington Timeless in the grand finals. The road doesn't get any easier from here, but we do have one quick little rest stop, and that is an interview with Kindred. We're going to throw to a quick break, and we will be right back with her. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everybody. It has been sheer unbridled aggression and dominance coming out from Drainers, especially in this series. And at the forefront of it has been Kindred, the tank for Drainers. We've got her here for an interview. Welcome, Kindred. I have to say right off the bat, your V2 remodel is about as well endowed as your tank ability. Is there a tank that you can't play?
Probably the Wrecking Ball. I'm not playing that character ever. And you'll never see me play that character unless I'm rolling out, looking at their comp.
A little bit of scouting. We saw that, yeah.
It's been great to watch you play. Just the tank matchup was really interesting. Bring us through your mindset of going up against Garchomp. Kind of what led to your swaps and how did your team coordinate around countering?
We recently won another marginalized tournament, and in that tournament it was the same patch, and I kind of learned how to play the meta during that with my team, and my team also knows how I like to play, and like I talk a lot with my team about what I want to do outside of the game, and I just see triggers and I monkey see monkey do kind of thing. I see Surasa, I go Zarya. I see Sigma, I go Reinhardt. It's just I'm playing the counter swap game, but you know I'm playing Reinhardt, so it's a little more base.
A little bit more based. I'm glad you bring up that tournament that you won, by the way, that Kunoichi kerfuffle, where you're selling yourself short because you really won 2 tournaments in one day. You won the EU and NA brackets, which is absolutely insane, and why we're considering Drainers to be one of the favorites. And you know, you've manifested that. You're now in the top 3, but if you want to take this championship, you have to go through Valiant Guardians to get to Washington Timeless. You've already beaten Valiant Guardians once. Can you do it again?
Yeah, I miss all my old teammates. Some of them are in Valiant Guardians, so I'd like to beat them in a Calling All Your Heroes tournament, especially after not really being with Nixel anymore. I kind of forgot that this is like our second tournament, or my second tournament not on Nixel, so it'll be pretty good to get a nice feel without, or get a nice tournament placing without, you know, all my puzzle pieces.
Yeah, I'm so excited for that match, and one thing I wanted to point out is you guys ran a lot of Symmetra today with Yves. So were there any what were the challenges, or how did you communicate around teleporting with the Symmetra?
Yves and KJ actually an hour before our warm-up were VOD reviewing a lot, and we talked about it last night. Since we lost a Timeless so ruthlessly, we are gonna try a lot of different stuff if we make the grand finals. It's gonna be a very interesting grand finals if we make it. I'll just say that for the least. I kicked up a lot of plans, and I'm not even sure what we're doing, so how are they going to predict what we're doing?
That's the surest strategy. Like, if you don't know what you're going to do, how is your opponent ever going to know what you're about to do? Well, at this rate, what it seems like you're about to do is run through Valiant Guardians to go to the grand finals, and that's what I kind of want to see. I hope we get to see that happen, but you know, as you get ready for that next matchup, I want to give you one last chance to give any sort of shout outs, let everybody know how you're feeling and what we can expect from you.
Shout out to Coach El Fumi, aka Restoration, aka my partner. She does a lot of coaching, aka she's not even in the server. And they also made our logo and my V2 model, and everything that I do is supported heavily by Afumi, so that's the only person I can really shout out, and of course my team, because you know they're my little puzzle pieces and we work really well together.
That is adorable. Thank you, Kindred, so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on here. You're always winning games, so I feel like we get to do a lot of interviews with you, and I hope that pattern does not change as we prepare for our next game here. Looking to the past, though, a 3-0 against Bear Claw Gaming, and like we've said, it just feels like Drainers have been a step ahead of Bear Claw Gaming the entire time. Bear Claw Gaming never really felt like they were in this matchup outside of Oasis City Center. If you're Valiant Guardians, are you scared? Are you scared, Lemon, of what you just saw from Drainers?
Oh, I'm scared to be on the other side. The way y'all retook Midtown was crazy. Thank you so much for the interview there, Kindred. We'll see you in the next match. But the way Drainers would retake, you never know what to expect from them. What she said was exactly right. Expect the unexpected for them.
Well, expect the unexpected, and you never saw this coming. We're going to throw to a quick break while we get our next match set up. You should have seen that one coming, but hey, stick around. We'll have the next match ready to go for you right after this break. Welcome back, Overwatch gamers. This is the second game of the day for the Calling All Heroes Rise Together Minor 3, hosted, of course, by Toronto Defiant. My name is CB. I'm joined by the lovely Lemon Kiwi, and we have a great game lined up here for our lower finals.
Yes, Valiant Guardians versus Drainers. Drainers are on that hot streak ever since round 1. They've been taking dubs, and you heard from Kindred earlier. She and the gang sound very confident about their next match, but Valiant Guardians has some players I've casted before that are very scary.
And there's a lot of star power on Valiant Guardians, a lot of big names that you're going to recognize right away, especially if you're a fan of Contenders Overwatch. But speaking of Contenders, there's a couple of them right here in this lower finals, and they have a date with Destiny, with Washington Timeless in the grand finals there, but there's only room for one at the top, and there's only room for two to vie for that spot. Who is going to be facing Washington Timeless? Interestingly, as you can see, both of these teams were sent to the lower bracket by Washington Timeless in 3-0 fashion, so the road just doesn't get any easier for anyone involved.
Yeah, at least Valiant Guardians have the better seed to get map 1, right? So, to pick their map 1, so you obviously want to counter what Drainers have brought to the table so far, but then you saw how Kindred can literally play any tank except Hammond, which doesn't tell you exactly what map to go to against them, but it seems like Kindred from the interview is very calculated and knows exactly what to swap to, so hopefully Valiant Guardians are ready.
I mean, maybe Valiant Guardians, pull out a Wrecking Ball map. I'm not sure which map from the pool is the most conducive to Wrecking Ball that wouldn't also very heavily favor the Drainers Rush style, that Smash Mouth in-your-face style that they have trademarked throughout the entirety of this tournament. And like you said, or like Kindred said, it's chaos. How can they predict what we're going to do if we don't even know what we're going to do? Valiant Guardians have to find an answer, but Drainers haven't even given them the question yet. The last time these two teams met, Drainers swept Valiant Guardians. So Guardians, I mean, despite their upswing, going back from being somewhat disappointing to being, again, a potential favorite, and indeed a potential grand finalist, they still have to try and find an answer.
And there's some dangerous DPS players on Drainers. I mean, KJ was popping off on the Sojourn on Surasa, Yves with the Genji, also the Symmetra if they want to have this more brawl style and can be enabled to do that. We talked about Zep and their impact on Baptiste and the immortalities that have saved Kindred so many times. So from what we've seen from Drainers, they're a very capable team that have the talent to go to grand finals, but the Guardians, the gatekeepers, the Valiant gatekeepers of that have some serious firepower, especially Moving Fish is a tank that I've casted before that it was incredible on Winston during that meta. Here's their roster now. They're sporting the D.Va, sure, but this is one of the more experienced tanks here.
Yeah, I mean, Moving Fish, very storied with Redbirds Esports in both collegiate and in Contenders, has been a phenomenal player, and typically for that squad was brought out as their off tank, but in the dive meta, that essentially means when we play Circuit Royale, you play Sigma. So, something of a Sigma specialist, but they're also capable of playing any other tank under the sun. Being in a Sigma-favored meta, you gotta believe that that's what Valiant Guardians are going to want to lean more towards, especially with, H-Key and the phenomenal Mei play that we've seen out of her time and time again. Whiffs on the hit scan can easily slot into that Bastion slot quite nicely. It's gotta be what Valiant Guardians want to try and play, but we've also seen a couple other interesting looks from this roster throughout the duration of this tournament. So it's anyone's guess as to whether or not they're going to have the answer, but they definitely have a ton of tools in their toolbox to try some things out.
And Aramori is someone who produces amazing content, and she has some serious firepower. I hope that she pops off today. They also have Coach Leb, which I didn't even know he was coaching. So yeah. Shout out to Leb and the experience that he brings, of course, on the support line of things. Probably all around as a very experienced player in competitive outside of this. So we'll see if maybe the Valiant Guardians have the game plan to go up against Drainers.
I mean, again, whatever that game plan might be, whatever the game even is, because at this point, I'm not even sure if they know, because again, Drainers, they don't even know. But we do know for sure what Drainers roster is going to look like. No swap's going to be coming out from them, the same starting roster. And we also know that we're going to kick things off on Lijiang Tower. Again, it's the same lineup, Kindred on the aggressive tanks, the Rhines, the Junker Queens, driving the bus, driving the pain train forward, Zepturn and Wicca keeping her alive, and KJ and Yves thriving in all of the chaos, finding the picks that they need to secure the dubs for Drainers. It's so chaotic and so difficult to stop. On Lijiang Tower, there might be opportunities for Valiant Guardians to do that, but what really is their modus operandi here?
I'm wondering, of course, Kindred goes to the Rhine on Lijiang Tower. I think most of the time, maybe you can justify the Orisa. I don't be matchup dependent, as she said in the interview. But as Yves wanting to go on the Symmetra, there were times where they lost some fights due to maybe miscoordination or them not even being able to connect with the teleporter, to teleporting to the wrong places, to most of the time being able to do well with that Symmetra. But then Symmetra is a super vulnerable character, can be weak to Genji, can be weak to just any assassin that gets on them. So Yves can be both a liability and both an important win condition for maneuvering Kindred around the map. So is the Symmetra coming into play, or are we seeing maybe more Bastion, Genji, or just full damage?
When we go to Night Market, I do want to also keep a very close eye on the Valiant Guardians composition. I don't believe it was against Drainers. I think it was against Washington Timeless on the first day of Swiss that they actually pulled out a Doomfist Pharmacy composition, and it did win them Night Market. It wasn't, something that they were able to run successfully on Gardens or on Control Center. So they did have to kind of adapt and play into Washington Timeless's game a little bit, but that does show that they have that tool in their toolbox. Again, another thing that Moving Fish can swap over to is that Doomfist, and there is a ton of flexibility in that DPS core there. We're still waiting just a little bit on the lobby here, so we'll be getting into the game shortly, chat. I know you want to get into it, but hey, we're buying you some more time to get those skins. I've seen so many people that have been like, please just stay live for like 4 more minutes. I'm so close. This is where you really pump up those numbers here.
Yes, get your contender skins. They're limited edition. They look cool. And what's going to be cool is also this lower bracket final. The winner of this gets top 2, goes to the grand final, and has a chance to try and dethrone that Washington team. So we go to Lijiang Tower. This is picked by Valiant Guardians, and that's quite a choice to make against kind of a rush master team of Drainers.
Yeah, we're going to be looking heavily to Night Market and Gardens to be what actually sets it apart. Control Center, you got to believe, like Drainers, this is where they want to live. This is absolutely going to be their home. But how are Night Market and Gardens going to favor Drainers, if at all? Do Valiant Guardians have a plan for those sub-maps in particular? If they can take just those 2, then it really doesn't matter what happens on Control Center.
Yeah, defending with Rush is what's most important. Just defending in general, if you can win the first fight, the percentage of you winning the map, the round, skyrockets. So that's where that Symmetra of Yves is going to be really critical. On a map like this, not so much. There is just so much open area around the point that teleporting first to point is mostly for maybe a Control Center or a Night Market here on Gardens. You can even have some dive if you want, but both our teams seem to be hovering over Rush.
Yeah, not even a smidge of dive to kick things off on Gardens. Both teams, like you said, hovering over the rush. But the interesting thing to me is that there is no Symmetra on the side of Val. There is now a Symmetra. I've just been debated. I thought HQ was going to stick on that Genji, which she has actually at times been known for and been quite good at. But this is a little bit more of a mirror matchup here. Just a difference in tanks, and we know how Kindred likes to play her tanks, especially against the Orisa. So maybe we can even expect a Zarya swap in the near future.
Oh, Kindred has no fear, just stepping up, no armor, half-broken shield. They don't want to let Wisp get away with murder, but they already have. Kindred thought they could engage, but they were missing out on resources. And it's really not a bad idea to stay patient and play your section of the point like they were set up to do, but they stepped forward and just ate so much damage from Wisp.
Like I said, Kindred is always driving the bus for Drainers, but her bus does not have a rear view mirror at all. She did not see that there was not enough support behind her and too much damage in front of her for her to be able to back out safely on the Reinhardt. So she's going to go ahead and use this opportunity to make that swap just like I called out onto the Zarya. And hey, look, it's already paying off.
And it helps to also counter Genji, who can't deflect Zarya's damage, so HK has to be even more careful and keep track of that energy from Kindred, because if it's at 0, also just throwing popcorns at the other team, but Drainers seem to be defending well and just slowly but surely dwindling down Moving Fish, who can't take that fight against Yves, at least not when they get charged up this much. So Drainers are back in the driver's seat.
Kindred definitely not throwing popcorn at the enemy team right now, popping them like popcorn along with the beam damage coming out from Yves, who's already nearing that photon barrier. Zepturn has the Amp Matrix, and that's going to be very difficult for Valiant's Guardian's composition to try and play into. That's likely going to bait out almost all of Moving Fish's cooldowns, and suddenly they're going to be out where you don't want to be. It looks like they're actually just going to use the Amp Matrix to control the bridge and force a rotation.
Yeah, the photon barrier popped from Yves. They kind of panicked. They saw someone jump into the window towards the point there of Valiant Guardians, maybe HQ or something like that. And
look at Yves,
Drainers are teleporting into them. They are insane. Valiant Guardians have to use the sound barrier. They feel too pressured. And Drainers are able to escape through the bridge, and Valiant Guardians have no punishing power, it seems. Drainers are still finding picks.
I mean, what a great teleport there from Yves, just peppering in the damage onto Moving Fish, who has no idea that they're just melting, fully focused on trying to put the damage out through the window, but didn't realize the call was coming from inside the house. And Valiant Guardians, they have a nice ult combo with that Artillery Strike and Terra Surge combination, but Drainers have all the tools they need to counter it. Valiant Guardians, if they even want to try and get it off, they have to try and find a way in, and Drainers are not keen to let them do that.
Yeah, Moving Fish can't sustain through this fight, and Kindred is very charged. Grab at the ready. Valiant Guardians don't have an answer to this, but they want to try and force this out. Long range grab is thrown, and you've got Moving Fish, who tries to eat all the damage. What an Artillery Strike from Wisp, but it's traded right out. We have a 3 versus 3. Drainers 94% and growing. Wicca makes the call for the sound barrier. Moves 2 off the map. Valiant Guardians lose round 1.
That's such a clutch play from Wicca, too. Zepturn was out of the fight. KJ and Kindred were both low HP, so Wicca says, you know what? I got this, babes. Pops the sound barrier, gives all that overhealth to keep them alive just long enough, and then just walks right through the window, gets a 2K with that boop. That is picture perfect Lucio play. That is beautiful stuff. That is why she and Kindred have the accolades. That's why she is a former Calling All Heroes champion, along with the NYXL Academy roster. That's why she even was one of the inaugural Calling All Heroes champions in the first tournament that we ran here. She's a phenomenal Lucio player, and it shows, especially when she gets to play that hyper-aggressive style where she can get those big plays, get those big aggressive Lucio boops. Now, though, having a look back over the other side of the screen, here's that composition that I foreshadowed from Valiant Guardians, that Doomfist Pharmacy comp.
This will be able to trickle damage around the point in terms of living and holding the space. This is difficult for Valiant Guardians to do with this composition. It'll all be around trying to put damage into the point to force them out, and Kindred is pooped off by H-Key. It's still a number advantage for Drainers, who continue to live on the point. KJ needs that far to be a little bit more committed before switching to that tank configuration and trying to spray them down, but it's difficult with a Mercy Pocket.
Yeah, the trouble is you're really relying on the presence of moving fish and the absence of Yves all of a sudden to try and find a way in. With that Symmetra off the field, it might be a little bit easier to get your Sim and your Doomfist onto the point to contest, and for HK to find a little bit more purchase with these rockets.
Oh, there's the purchase, buying so much, and you see Kindred trying to protect their team. That was a well-placed Matrix with the Diva. And HK is booping people off still. Moving Fish must have missed a punch or something. I have no idea. But HK is removing people by force, but Drainers still have so many people alive. Who is going to be really there to contest if you're Valiant Guardians? Drainers are running out of firepower, running out of people, and eventually Valiant Guardians will flip.
Moving Fish, I mean, did slip off the point there. Returned to the ocean briefly, but they are now back, and you gotta believe the fight win is coming in favor of Valiant Guardians, but Wicca is still an ever-looming threat with that huge boop there. Once she's dispatched, it is gonna be Valiant Guardians finding the flip, but it's scrappy, it's bloody, it's not clean, and that's the kind of chaos that Drainers continue to thrive in, and that chaos has gifted them a Sound Barrier and an Amp Matrix. I'm not quite sure how you use the Amp Matrix against a composition like Valiant Guardians, but I'm sure that Sound Barrier is going to come in clutch, especially with this Pulse Bomb and potentially with this Rocket Barrage coming online.
Yeah, the Amp Matrix would have been better to defend with, not to engage in. Valiant can just simply leave, but Drainers somehow made their way to the point, are going to be able to cap it back, use the Amp Matrix to just scare Valiant into not having line of sight with them. But Drainers are down Yves. KJ is also translocating back. Valiant have made their move. They've nanoed Moving Fish, who's ready to go for environmental kills for anyone who steps on these ledges. Valiant Guardians have now just divided Drainers. How are people always falling off the map? What's going on here?
I think Drainers might have left some banana peels near the edge there, and Valiant Guardians have not been privy to that strategy, as both Moving Fish and Wisp has fallen victim to it. But Drainers, they still look very strong there. There's a kill onto Yves, but Yves took out Kiro before they fell.
All right, I think it's a 3 versus 2 in favor of Valiant Guardians, and their reinforcements are coming back that much quicker. Kindred might have contested there for a while. They have left the scene, so was Wicca, so Valiant will take back the point.
It's still looking pretty heavily. This team comp that I'm looking at right now, Diva with a Sombra Echo, and that just kind of works out. It has no business working out. It is definitely not the meta, but it's one of those situations where you're going up against a team that is not playing what everyone else is practicing, so you can't practice against it. If they don't know what, or if we don't know what we're going to do, you can't know what we're going to do. Drainers, they know what they're doing. They might not look it, but they definitely know what they are doing here.
Valiant Guardians went for the full anti-Pharah comp with the Diva, Echo, and more, but they didn't really have a solid hit scan to be able to take advantage of the space that they could have had. Wisp, I mean, also just, it's tough to have an impact on Tracer when a lot of the characters you want to get close to are just that dangerous. So having to come up with something that can counter Drainers when they seem to be more studied up on the meta or what is good against them and how to play against it. Drainers are the better team right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say they're studied up on the meta. They're definitely studied up on whatever the heck it is that they want to play. They've studied that book. They read it back front, cover to cover, left to right. They can read it backwards if they want to. And Valiant Guardians still have yet to even figure out what language it's written in, let alone how to counter it, how to stop it. Okay, Wisps didn't fall off the edge there. I think Pulse Bomb themselves is actually what happened there. So didn't fall victim to the banana peel, fell victim to something much, much more sinister.
I was about to say I didn't really see any pulse bombs. I'm trying not to call people out. I was wanting to see more explosive power out of Wisp, but
maybe less explosive power out of Wisps.
Just not at your own feet, you know. I understand, but Drainers, whew, they're an exciting team to watch.
They're an exciting team to watch, and it's also very exciting, very exhilarating to think about what the other team has to be thinking right now. Like, how are the synapses in their brains firing? What connections are they trying to make? How are they going to somehow retake their position in the driver's seat? Because Drainers have completely taken us off the road. We don't know where we are. We're completely out in the Drainer zone, wherever that may be. Valiant Guardians, they need to get back on course. If they want to try and have that date with Washington Timeless, they need to try and get back on course. It's going to be their map pick, and the next stop on that course is Midtown.
Well, Drainers were very successful at that last time, so much so that they pretty much full held their opposition, not allowing that full point capture to go through, and having being so confident on this map that they would go for a retake with a Doomfist and actually prevail at it. So gotta watch out for Yves also on the Genji. I think now that they've kind of warmed up, they're one of the most threatening DPS on the field.
Undoubtedly. And I mean, you know, we can go back to Drainers and how dangerous and how scrappy they are as a team. The win condition, I feel, for Valiant Guardians has to be trying to just take control and be the ones that are setting the tempo and not letting Drainers play whatever it is their game is. It's a childish game. Put your toys away. Stop it. We have to play this serious game right now. Good old-fashioned clinical Overwatch where they are in the driver's seat. Are they going to be able to execute that, though? Because like you said, Bear Claw Gaming was not able to do so on this map. Drainers were quite successful on Midtown with that miracle retake. Again, pulling the toys out, dumping them all over the floor so the parents step on them, and just a terrible time for Bear Claw Gaming. And have Valiant Guardians set them up for that exact same fate? We'll never know, or we will actually quite shortly know.
Yeah, Moving Fish, do they go back to sort of an Orisa style? It is one of the just easier and more tankier tanks to play in terms of holding space, but Kindred locking Zarya, Yves sometimes going Symmetra, just the double laser comp is something that Moving Fish had a lot of issues with, and what kind of had them have such a hard time holding any real estate at all, and just constantly having to maneuver around the map is very difficult on trying to discover what angles to retake on, while as of course defending with what Drainers were running was a lot easier. But we go to Midtown now with Valiant Guardians attacking, where Moving Fish on the Sigma, this is a good call.
I'm curious to see how the Rhine defense plays out for Drainers, because yeah, this is definitely what Kindred wants to play right now. They're playing the London Spitfire variant version of the Rush composition with the Reinhardt, with the Sim, with the Bastion. And it did fare quite well for London, but it requires a lot of synergy, and it might not look the most synergistic the way that Drainers play. It's quite chaotic, but they are all on the same page. They do understand their win conditions, when to use their ultimates, when to use their abilities for maximum effectiveness. And whether that be on an individual level or a team level is kind of irrelevant when you have to try and play into it. Valiant Guardians sticking with what brought them to the dance, and that's that Sig meta.
But Drainers, they were able to dominate so many fights because of their ability to not hesitate to W key in with Kindred, and look at them swing for the fences. Valiant Guardians just woke up and they've already been put to bed.
Yeah, nobody on Valiant Guardians was looking at that window where KJ was lurking, courtesy of the Sim teleporter. And, you know, yeah, Yves does fall. The health bars on Drainers looking a little anemic right now. It might be an opportunity for someone from Valiant Guardians to step up, but who is there? There's nobody. Nobody can step up. Drainers can just take a quick step back, give up a little bit of space. That does let Valiant Guardians get to the choke essentially for free, which is a little bit more comfortable, but they still have to try and find purchase on the point.
Yeah, this H-Key Mei is playing at an off angle, and the first Mei wall didn't really help. Moving Fish taking a lot of pressure, but Drainer's not committing, meaning Valiant Guardians can heal back up. But Kindred pops around the corner, starts beating H-Key to death. Doesn't get maybe the impact that they wanted, but it's good cycling around the shield and trust into KJ's Bastion that prevails for Drainers.
And like a rubber band, Drainers snap right back, and now they have control of the choke again. And their style, like we saw, is to not even let Valiant Guardians sit in this choke comfortably. We saw Kindred doing the same play against Bear Claw Gaming. I don't know if it's going to be as successful. She might actually have to use the Shadow this time around. But even that, there is no shot Valiant Guardians will have scouted this out. And yep, they didn't see it coming.
Well, the ice block was well timed by H-Key, but Hero just got their feet hammered. Valiant Guardians see with this Ant Matrix that they could have punished the escape of Kindred, but beautiful pin out. Now you got some hosing. Valiant Guardians taking a bit of damage, not too worried, but they have Drainers on the high ground. You know exactly what's coming. This Bastion ult will draw out those rats. Maybe even get the immortality out of Scepter? No, but the Blizzard is dropped by H-Key to stop Drainers in their tracks, freezing Kindred, killing them, and KJ's next on the hit list. But the Photon Bear of Yves is what saves the team at the end. But with two missing from this defense, I don't know how long Drainers can hold out for.
I mean, Valiant Guardians, at the very least, have at least gotten their feet back underneath them, and they can start to walk and eventually start to run. They're going to be able to get at least one tick on the point here, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Drainers go back in for a recontest, and hey, what do you know? There's Kindred.
Oh, jeez, Kindred. Do they have support? They do, the sound barrier, but it's really just to delay the inevitable. Gravitic Flux to deal with the reinforcements there of Drainers, and Valiant Guardians have capped the point.
They had to leverage the ult advantage to get to the choke and get themselves onto the point there. Wicca goes for an aggressive sound barrier to try and keep the rest of Drainers in the fight to keep the recontest alive, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You go for the aggressive sound barrier, you don't have a defensive one for the Gravitic Flux. Speaking of defensive, KJ had no defense there for the just ganking there by Valiant Guardians. That's a pretty late stagger and a rough time to lose your primary damage dealer. That might actually just be Valiant Guardians taking this early high ground for free, and that is pretty disastrous for Drainers.
That's a good call from Valiant Guardians. This bridge is a power position that both teams will fight over, and to be set up this early, especially with a Mei, Drainers are just not going to be able to go up here, but somehow they do with the teleport events. They take a different angle, which catches HK off guard. Valiant Guardians decide not to contest this, of course, against the Matrix of Zepturn, but Valiant Guardians still have some good cart push going and bridge control back for Drainers.
Yeah, it's a great way to get that high ground back up. Just pop the Ant Matrix and make the other team evacuate the dance floor. But hey, they have showed up to Tango once again. KJ looking very, very low there. They're trying to keep their Bastion alive. Drainers, they're gonna have to evict. They're gonna have to evict themselves. Take their leave.
What an incredible immortality once again out of Zepturn when Kindred just abandoned the backline. The immortality came up, saved KJ, and the difference of damage for Drainers is astounding. Now, they'll not only have bridge control, but they may want to hold close off of the Shatter.
They're definitely going to want to. I mean, they have 5 ultimates. Why wouldn't they hold close here? Yeah, you can see Kindred looking. She's going for another flank Shatter. And again, Valiant Guardians have not successfully scouted this out once, and why would this be any different? Yeah, Karo actually narrowly avoids it, but now you're trapped in here with me, son.
Oh, great Maywall from H-Key, and now Kindred is trapped! That's the head down of H-Key like a mole, and the immortality from Zepturn allowed that kill to even happen. But Kindred's eventually dealt with, and Drainers didn't want to invest more than they already did. And it's a good call to go for those 2 ultimates. The sound barrier could have been used, but Wicca is still enabling KJ for as long as they can. But Valiant Guardians are missing a few members, so it's not a comfortable push for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're only going to realistically be able to have Moving Fish on the payload here with, I believe that's H-Key, along with them here, so they can get the cart back underneath this choke, but they can't maintain high ground control. They can't push the cart far enough to where the high ground control becomes irrelevant. So, again, Drainers are able to snap right back, take the high ground, and drop down on top of Valiant Guardians on their terms.
Oh, Kiro managed to actually get the cart past the bridge. Now Drainers pop the immortality on an off angle. What a risk! What a mistake from Drainers. They should have popped it to cover the payload. And coming from behind Valiant Guardians, who are already so far forward, is a choice. Drainers are not only going to lose bridge, but the entirety of point B, unless Kindred can contest, then they do, but they're the only member alive, so you shave off a few more seconds, but Valiant Guardians, a great call to keep that cart pushed and to keep moving forward despite Drainers behind them.
You call that Wicca sound barrier there. In her defense, it's kind of hard to use a sound barrier effectively when your team is playing on 6 different tectonic plates. We're playing a rush comp as though it is a comp full of just all flankers. Like, Zepturn is going for aggressive Ant Matrixes in the backline. KJ and Wicca are speed boosting a Bastion around behind the enemy team. Valiant Guardians, they have failed to predict anything, but they're still able to make a little bit of headway.
This Bastion ult plus Kindred charging in, but now you're looking down the barrel of death when there's a sound barrier from Kiro in your face.
Ooh, the stun.
But barely getting into the immortality, but there is Wisp getting their revenge, and Drainers will be wiped off the face of this objective, and Valiant will get halfway to point C.
That was a great little stun there from Moving Fish. I mean, Kindred, she felt it was getting too hot. She wanted out, turned around and tried to charge, got hit with an accretion, and then the wall went up in her face. Had that rock not hit, she would have gotten out, and Drainers might actually be able to go for a recontest here, but now the cart's going to get around that last corner, or right up to it before Valiant Guardians have to try and be on the back foot now that Kindred is back in the fight.
Moving Fish was so low, and Drainers wanted that kill so bad, and with being this close to Shatter and now having it, Kindred and how they play this corner is going to be important, but maybe worried about the damage that Wisp can do on the Bastion and reading this Amp Matrix. They're going to TP. Drainers are TPing behind Valiant and drop the Shadow right in front of them. Drainers wanted to form the Pain Sandwich, but Valiant removing Kindred maybe kills this defense for Drainers. It'll be up to their DPS and how they work off of this Photon Barrier, which is acting as a pseudo-tank, and it's been working out for KJ, taking down the opposition of Wisp, and now trapping the supports. Aramori and Hero are gone, and Drainers will continue to hold.
That was almost a heroic play from HK. The Mei wall to block Kindred Shatter was incredible. Continuing the long-standing rivalry of Kindred versus Walls. Walls gets one over this time around, but HK dies with the Blizzard that might have sealed the fight for Valiant Guardians. And with that off the field, and no other tools realistically in Valiant Guardians' favor, save for that Gravitic Flux that came out too little too late, Drainers are able to hold and withstand, and that's where that friendly little fire truck is going to stop. That is the win condition for Drainers. And if you're Valiant Guardians, I would have loved to see a full cap, because you got to believe with the aggression and the way that Drainers play, they are going to have the pedal to the metal the entire time. A full cap for Drainers seems likely. Going on the attack with this hyper-aggressive style, surely this will be a close call.
Yeah, with how aggressive Drainers are playing, how moving Fish decides to position is so important to their team's success. You gotta not be afraid to give up space and to play off of your cooldowns. Let them regenerate, especially that shield, and to move back in, because Sigma can take pressure very well at a distance, and Kindred not so much. So in an extended fight, I would give moving Fish, and especially this Bastion, the dub, but it's about Drainers not hesitating on always pressing W key, which they've been so good at. But Valiant have to be keep that space created between the two for Valiant to win.
And Drainers love to press the W key, but right now they're going to want to press the H key, because Yves versus H key is the major differential in this composition. Drainers are going to want to teleport right past the choke point. H key wants to try and cut them off at the pass. Who is going to get the better of this exchange? There's the Mei wall. The teleporter's no good.
Oh, the Symmetra teleport almost caught Valiant off guard, and now with this ice block, H-Key can't be saved. Moving Fish needs to back away. They've got the Karo's speed and the boots to create space, but Drainers are a pain train that will not be stopped. There are no stops on this train, and Drainers will be at least getting the first take. They have to be careful with how far they extend out, especially Yves, but with Bastion missing there, a whiz! There's a lot of damage missing from Valiant, but Drainers should be okay to get the second tick. But what about the third? Valiant Guardians are thinking about a recontest, but with a Reinhardt that could be pinning them down is difficult. But HK has stuck into the backline while Kindred pinned forward, and HK might have fought another fight for Valiant.
Maybe, but I mean, she's still alive. Zepturn gonna go ahead and pop that Ant Matrix up on the high ground, and I think with dispatching Kindred, Valiant Guardians might have finally regained control of the fight. Nope, scratch that. They've actually failed to stay on the point, and HK falls. Yves and Zepturn, they just go ahead and cap the point outright, and Drainers, just when you thought Valiant Guardians had a chance to get back into it, steal it right back out from under them, and now here's that aggression from Drainers yet again, playing forward, trying to bait Valiant Guardians into fighting on their terms, saying, yeah, come on up here, take me down. Kindred looking for a shatter from the top rope, most likely.
Yeah, it looks like the Photon Bear is being thought about to deny Valiant from going inside of that room. The shatter came down, H-Key is missing, but the artillery fire is here to stop Drainers from having bridge, but the shield goes up, Kindred blocks the damage, and now pins in! You crazy Reinhardt! Valiant still weren't able to punish it, but Kindred without a shield just has to spray, it just has to swing and pray, but Valiant break through the tank, and Drainers are gone from this bridge.
Miss Kindred's wild ride finally comes to a close. She was emoting up on that pillar, dropped down with a shatter, killed 2, went in for that charge, and on 1 HP canceled the charge so she could get healed. Some phenomenal Reinhardt play, a masterclass, and meanwhile, Wicca was sneaking the point underneath them the entire time. But it wasn't enough. Valiant Guardians are able to win the fight and maintain the ult advantage, so it's going to be a very, very uphill battle for Drainers from here on out.
And just where is Drainer's going to teleport to, and HK thought it was going to be right on top of Bridge, so they dropped the Blizzard at their feet. But Drainers are split. They have someone pushing cart, and the rest of Drainers can't seem to find a safe way to cross the street, while Valiant poke them down. So a small push from Drainers, but great focus out of Valiant.
But Valiant, they utilized 2 of their biggest ultimates in that fight, and Drainers, you know, they're diamond hands. They get to hold on to their economy. They can keep building up that sound barrier to match Karo's, and with that off the field, Drainers firmly have an ult advantage. If they go in for a TP, hit a big amp matrix, Drainers can retake this high ground. But Valiant Guardians do have an opportunity to consider that possibility. Mull it over, think on it, as we go to a quick pause.
Yeah, I was wondering, that's why I wanted to talk to Kindred about how they were going to teleport this composition around, because there's a lot to consider when engaging, you know, inside another team. You're just teleporting into them. So mainly it's been Kindred looking for shatters. Yves just making that call to usually go on top of the pillar or on top of the bridge. And this has been kind of nullifying such an important weakness of the Reinhardt composition of how much time they can take poke for. And Yves cuts that down by placing them in the positions where they don't have to worry, where Kindred can just swing. And this will be what's on the menu. Yves is still finding a way to do that. Yeah, the Maywall was sort of to deny that, and here's the artillery of KJ to put some fear into Valiant. They pop the Amp Matrix, and Drainers disengage. Even though they had their own Amp Matrix, it was best placed.
Yeah, I mean, it was placed pretty well, but Kindred gets a little bit too low, and the entirety of Drainers just have to pump the brakes, go on the back foot, reassess, and they can't stick around much longer. So yeah, Amp Matrix for Amp Matrix traded out, both kind of wasted here. Wicca wants to go aggressive with the sound barrier, though.
This is very aggressive, trying to overwhelm Moving Fish, who has so much cushion because of that sound barrier, eventually dealt with. Good focus out of Drainers with this Photon Barrier. Yves will not be touched, and Drainers will continue to advance this cart. And this should be a time bank advantage as well. Valiant Guardians, they've done a good job at disengaging from these teleport plays, but Drainers are just so creative.
The sim TPs are just phenomenal from Yves, and you can even see the investment that HK has to go for every time with the Maywall just to block Drainers off from even being able to utilize the teleporter, but that makes it harder to be able to cut off line of sight once Kindred is actually in your face. And so yeah, she's able to disengage, she's able to go aggressive, she's able to shatter an elevator shaft for some reason. Who is letting her cook?
There's too much cooking happening, and Kero definitely got fried. Going up against Kindred in a tiny room. KJ is also unloading, and Drainers. How long can this push go without Kindred? They've done enough damage to Valiant Guardians, but they will have the respawn advantage. Yves has a good idea of trying to get more stagger kills. The box of victory is there. Valiant Guardians need to touch.
HK has to pop the Blizzard here, surely.
Go.
Someone has to touch. Please touch. Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. She still is going to have this Blizzard and is going to have to use it into the Amp Matrix.
Oh, but the teleporter is placed, and not everyone got it right in time. What? Wicca lives. The second icicle from HK didn't hit, and especially didn't go for the headshot. Drainers are missing their Symmetra, and it's up to Kindred to dominate the front line, but they can't against all the damage at range from Valiant. Now you still have 2.5 minutes of your Drainers. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, nothing to worry about, but you do have an ult advantage for Valiant Guardians. They bought just enough time to build up that Gravitic Flux, the Artillery Strike, that's a great 1-2 punch. They've got the Amp Matrix to try and control space, which hasn't been the easiest task to do against Drainers, but it is a tool that when things are this dicey, they must leverage, they must rotate out effectively from here on out, because once Drainers build up that Earth Shatter, you know Kindred is going to go for something absolutely bonkers.
Drainers. How is this gonna go? They have to wait out the Gravitic Flux. There's no answer to this. And Zepturn is already dead. Drainers just don't have the healing to sustain this fight. And off the Photon Barrier, they, stuck around to see what kind of picks they could get, but this is not a fight you can take without Zep.
I mean, and that's great value for Valiant Guardians. I mean, the Gravitic Flux doesn't actually get anything, but it does section off the rest of the team, so Zepturn is vulnerable, does fall, and Valiant Guardians have now built up to a sound barrier to match Wicca's, so the ult advantage still in their favor. The rotations are going nicely, and they don't even have to invest as long as they keep finding early picks.
Here's the artillery from Wisp, firing at the wrong team, but firing onto the right person. Yves is gone. Drainers keep getting picked. But they do respond with the shooting down Kero from the wall, I should say. Sound barrier hasn't been used, and Drainers will continue to delay this.
Yeah, Karo dies with the sound barrier in his back pocket. Drainers, I don't know if they scouted it. They're not going to go aggressive. They're going to go ahead and use an artillery strike of their own and try and take space and walk forward. But there's the Ant Matrix from both sides, and Kindred falls.
Yeah, the Ant Matrix from Aramori came first. Punished Kindred, extending forward. The box of victory right in Drainer's sight, but Valiant Guardians, they're not called Guardians for no reason. They are just defensive warlords.
And the pace has slowed to a snail's pace right now, and that's not where Drainers want to operate. They want to pick up the tempo, and they're running out of time to do just that. We got sound barriers on both sides. Kindred coming up on a shatter, but H-Key has the Blizzard again. That has to be the big difference maker. What will she do with this Blizzard? Is anybody going to fall courtesy of it? A great wall, but the Blizzard comes out. Kindred lives. No!
Wait, Kindred got booped into the line of fire again. The immortality wasn't enough to save, and the sound barrier from Wicca came too late. Someone has to touch the cart, and Wicca is there. Drainers are so formidable in the face of this Sigma of moving fish, who finds the accretion, maybe a winning one against Yves. Drainers don't have a lot of members, only 3. 2 are lifted up by the gravitic flux of moving fish, and the sound barrier. Caro's just the cherry on top. Kindred is back. The shatter finds moving fish. They're on their back, and Drainers are doing everything to put them 6 feet under. It's an overtime that never ends, and Kindred can't take all this pressure. Aramori will find the health pack, and Valiant Guardians have done enough to sustain, especially with this respawn advantage. They will hold and tie the series.
You said they're called Guardians for a reason. What a defense. What a clutch defense there. They know that Kindred is the threat there, especially when she's holding on to that Earth Shatter. And like I said, H-Key with the Blizzard sections her off, isolates her. She gets booped back into it. Some great team play, understanding the mission. You take Kindred out, suddenly everything is in disarray. You have the ability to control the tempo. You can actually control the space with your own tank the way that you want to. And Valiant Guardians, that's what they needed to do. Finally, the pain train from the Drain Gang has been stalled.
What a defense. Valiant Guardians played that perfectly. They knew what corners to play around. They also played around both corners, which made it very difficult for Drainers to push into that T-cross and look and know whether to fight the left side or the right side. Valiant Guardians never stacked too close on top of each other where the shatters of Drainers could get insane amount of value. Valiant Guardians also just winning the Bastion battle. Really good use of artillery there from Wisp. And honestly, I thought Drainers were going to be able to push at the end, but that is the weakness of Reinhardt. They can't take range damage for too long. Kindred might have started off fights really well, but once things got hairy, Kindred just didn't have enough armor, enough shield to live.
And it's the trouble with the Reinhardt. Once the shield goes down, suddenly you are the one taking all of the damage, and you have to be putting out enough damage to offset it. And Kindred was definitely no slouch when it came to dishing out the damage, but it was just that last little bit, those last 2 fights that sealed the deal for Valiant Guardians. They seem to have found the answer here, whatever it is, because I'm still not entirely sure what we've seen. It's been so chaotic top to bottom, but the fact that Valiant Guardians are able to at least stall out Drainer's momentum, I feel, is everything. They have a shot at making that date with Destiny. We're tied up at 1-1, and I think the more important narrative, by the way, is that I'm not actually the cause of the curse. Jag, my co-caster from yesterday, if you're watching, you are the cause of the 3-0 curse. I shift all that blame onto you. I get to cast a series in which it's not entirely one-sided.
Yeah, H-Key. Minus the Blizzard that they used on the bridge there of Point B, really well-timed ice blocks against the Shatters, Maze that were isolating Kindred a lot. And I think for this particular point, Symmetra is a bit weaker, you know. I think Drainers did an amazing job of overwhelming Bridge and taking control of that and finding creative ways to get in and around Valiant Guardians, but this is just a point of the map that there is no power position spot to engage into. It was just a poke war that Drainers could not win.
You have a look at the damage comparison here between KJ and Wisps, and Wisps did indeed come out ahead in the damage and in the deaths per 10, and I think when you're playing Bastion, obviously you want to be pumping out as much damage as possible and staying alive so that you can continue to be an ever-present threat that makes the enemy tank sweat, and you better believe Kindred was sweating heavily with Wisps on the other side, constantly staring down all of the barrels of that Bastion turret form. it's a hell of a thing to try and play into as any tank, but especially as a Reinhardt. Because again, yeah, once your shield goes down, you're the one taking all the damage. You're the one that is, you just take all the damage. You're melting like butter in front of your very eyes. It's so hard to play into and so difficult. I'm amazed that Kindred has been this successful thus far, but has her luck run out? Has she sort of stalled out here? I do want to, highlight one other thing really quick. Last time these two teams met, it was a Drainers 2-0 in Swiss. This is the most even that this matchup between these two has been thus far. It is going to be Drainers map pick as we go into map 3, but we're going to throw it to a quick break before we find out what that map is. Don't go anywhere. This one is getting spicy. Washington Timeless currently sit atop their ivory tower with their notepads out doing their homework as these two teams fight for both their amusement and for the right to take that crown from them. Drainers and Valiant Guardians, it could not be more even right now. Someone has finally put a stop to the Drain Gang and put it at 1 apiece. We are going to go to Surasa for Flashpoint to break this tie.
Well, Drainers did just come off of a sweep, which included Surasa, and in dominant fashion, too, with all 3 first rounds going their way. And this is where especially Yves was insane on the Genji. Finally got to pop off, get that 3K play of the game. And Valiant Guardians, I think their defense is what got them to win on Midtown, but how is that going to work against a map that you can't always defend well on?
Yeah, it's so hard to defend on Flashpoint. I mean, when you have control of the objective, you're good, but against an unpredictable team like the Drainers, who just, using Zarya bubbles to circle around Ant Matrixes and hit you from the back door when you don't see it coming, it makes it so much more difficult to hold on to a Flashpoint and try and get that advantage there. It is also quite difficult to take it from a team as scrappy as Drainers, a team that makes fights last what feel like an eternity, that just never ends. They keep it going even when they have no business going. I feel like if you give an early point to the Drainers, even if you take it back, you're not getting away without giving them at least like 60%.
Yeah. And just rotations, right? It's about the options of speed that you have, where we saw a lot of Yves Symmetra, at least for that first point. Whether they stay on that, maybe go to Genji next. We'll see how easy the rotations will be for Kindred, who I believe opted for Junker Queen last time because they were getting Maywalled off and stuff. But we'll see what kind of rush tank they go for. I would love the Junker Queen to enable Yves's Genji with that overhealth, but the Reinhardt has been rather successful for Kindred as well.
I mean, the Reinhardt was very successful. She also swapped over onto the Zarya to try and counteract the Orisa because, as she phrased it, monkey see, monkey do. Monkey see Orisa, monkey go Zarya. It's that tank rock, paper, scissors that we've seen time and time again. And, I mean, when you're a tank player like Kindred, who is so adept at all of these very brawl-heavy tanks, it makes it really difficult to play around. Moving Fish is having to, essentially play with their controls inverted, it feels like sometimes, and they're quite successful. They're such a good Sigma player. Like I mentioned, they're a Sigma specialist, a contenders and collegiate player known so well for their Sigma play, but it isn't enough to get one over on Drainers. It was enough to stall them out just barely on Midtown, but they need to do something a little bit more decisive here on Surasa. They need to completely shut Drainers down. Even in spawn right now, Kindred is playing tank roulette.
Yeah, just what is going to be the call out of Drainers, right? And I think they were able to defend well. Moving Fish, I think, yeah, the Sigma, again, how do you respect that space between yourself and the Reinhardt? It's a lot... this map just plays like Control. There's just more of it, and there's some points that are more spacious for that Sigma, but this first one's tough because the Symmetra can also place Drainers behind that Sigma.
You call that Yves's Genji play. HK is going to come out on a Genji of her own, and Yves, at least for the first point, sticking with the Symmetra, so Drainers might have a more favorable ability to control space here with that little cocktail cooked up between that and the Bastion, but it looks like Valiant Guardians are the first one to get their grippers on the point, but a nice Simti from Yves. That gets shut down.
Kindred is already using a lot of shield early in this fight before the Bastion has even gone to tank form, so that forces Drainers to take a step back, and they're going to be charging on in, not using the teleport, just trying to instill fear in the eyes of Valiant Guardians. Drainers are pretty close to flipping, and Moving Fish wanted to contest, drop down to half health, just trying to be present. But Drainers still haven't been able to cap quite yet. The damage coming out of Valiant Guardians has been a lot for Drainers to deal with, who have been just trying to stand there capping the point, but Valiant Guardians have been probably contesting things to Caro or maybe H-Key, but finally Drainers get the point.
That was a long time for Valiant Guardians to hold on to it despite not being on the point there. Yeah, either H-Key or Caro was doing a great job keeping it in contention for that long, but it does finally flip. Drainers seem in prime position to take this. They can even go aggressive with Wicca Sound Barrier if they want to.
Oh my god, they're just gonna teleport behind the Ant Matrix like that. Drainers, even with the Sound Barrier and the Immortality, they've overstayed their welcome, and now you have KJ just getting booped away from the enemy team. Valiant knew what was coming and planned for it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is starting to be where Drainers, the method to the madness is starting to be a little bit less maddening for Valiant Guardians, because they did that with only the Ant Matrix and just a little bit of positional outplaying, and maybe Drainers trying to reinvent the wheel with that Sim TP strat there. Yeah, it paid dividends, but it wasn't enough to either bleed out the ult economy for Valiant Guardians or keep the point in your favor. This is last fight for this first point here on Surasa. Are Drainers going to be able to buy their way back into this?
Kindred is so low, and Drainers got split up trying to help them, so HK tried to take advantage of this moment with the Dragon Blade. And cutting down Yves, one of the most vulnerable members. That is a good start. 5-4 in favor of Valiant Guardians, who were looking for the trades. They managed to dodge the shatter from Kindred, but the sound barrier too. They don't seem to be able to live against KJ's artillery. And without that Bastion, without Wisp and H-Key, Valiant just simply don't have the damage to keep defending this, but it'll be up to Moving Fish. And really, they're Lucio, but I think that's all she wrote for Valiant.
It looks about like it. Kindred with a couple of stagger picks off there. Aramori being the last to fall is going to be difficult. Even worse with Moving Fish actually sticking around a little bit longer than they should have. Sent back to the ocean once more is Moving Fish. And Drainers, I mean, that's all the time that they need to buy this back into one fight territory for this first point here. They might actually be able to hold on to it, and they have the sound barrier to do it. That's the most important thing, is that Wicca still has the all-important beat.
And this is last fight for the first point. Drainers have the sound barrier, as you said, but we can see this fight open up with the artillery there of Wisp, but Drainers are not going to let them set up. They teleport into them. Valiant, we're in the middle of artillery, and well, can't cancel out of that. Drainers removing that Bastion is huge for this fight. KJ has the immortality. Valiant know that that is an important target. Karo manages to take them down, but with Moving Fish quite literally escorted off the premises, Drainers will be taking the first point.
And Kindred acting as the bouncer to the club there, like you said, escorting Moving Fish off the premises, and Moving Fish not taking too kindly to that. Nice little accretion, takes themselves out of the fight as well. First point goes over to Drainers, and they've already kicked rocks and booked it onto the second point, and that's going to be the Valiant Guardians on the outside looking in, while Drainers will already be set up. Lurking with the Shatter, you gotta believe, you know, another teleport play from Yves is going to come out huge. Valiant Guardians, like, how do you crack this?
This is tough. You have at least the May of H-Key that is being used to isolate Kindred, who got teleported behind, went for a Shatter play, and I don't know what blocked it. Might have been the H-Key ice block, I'm not sure, but Kindred went for a play, came out with nothing, and that gives Valiant Guardians the point cap.
A shout out to our reserves for watching Wisp during that, who looked quite unbothered, saying, like, did I just hear something? Was somebody like knocking at my back door? Was there like a bee or something back there? Like, they paid no attention to Kindred. That Shatter just went completely errant. Again, got, like you said, got blocked, and now down the drain. Valiant Guardians now have the ult advantage firmly in their favor. H-Key's Blizzard is going to be a hell of a thing for Drainers to try and clap through without this sound barrier from Wicca. They're going to go with the artillery strike and go turbo aggressive to try and follow up on the damage.
Yeah, Kindred was trying to follow up on the artillery damage, as you said, and took a lot of hits, and there wasn't enough damage coming out of the artillery. And what was waiting for Drainers was a sound barrier and a Blizzard. Drainers seeing really what they can get out of this Bastion Lucio, but now that's a pretty painful stagger in favor of Valiant.
It was a sound barrier, Blizzard, and a Gravitic Flux. I really like the combo, lifting them up and slamming them right back down into the Blizzard. And in fact, most of them were already frozen up before they even hit the dirt again, and this should be Valiant Guardians capping. I mean, it's a heavy investment, but if it gets you the point, it's absolutely worth it. I don't think Drainers have an opportunity to contest again. Both teams are just, yeah, they were just staying stationary, waiting for the next point to reveal itself so they can start booking it on over to the opposite corner of the map. And once again, looks like Drainers are coming out ahead in the race, but it didn't favor them so well last time. Valiant Guardians should have a plan here, especially with this Amp Matrix from Aramori.
It's 1-1. And also 1-1 in the series, too. Valiant will just be approaching the point now with Drainers on the high ground. We could see another Wicca engage off the sound barrier if they think it's the right move. Kindred likes to play aggressive. Look how pushed up they are. They know that Valiant are rotating in these rooms to try and access that high ground. Wisp has the artillery, but they don't seem, they want to make sure that they can prevent the cap from Drainers. Kindred seems to be locked down. Here's the artillery right around the corner. Kindred gets booped away by Karo, and Valiant Guardians have put a huge dent in the forces of Drainers.
I mean, the biggest dent possible. They take down Wicca, who had the sound barrier, which is going to enable Kindred's aggression, and now that aggression is looking quite errant. It goes all for naught, and Valiant Guardians, sure, they concede nearly 30%, but they flip the point back in their favor. They have ults to boot. Wicca is forced to hold on to that sound barrier, where you would have liked to think she would have wanted to use it to try and hold on to the point a little bit longer, keep the chaos going, you know, whip up a little bit more of a storm, but it just doesn't pan out. And so now, how do you use this? It has to be to try and counteract the Blizzard here, but that might be just what Valiant Guardians wants, especially if Moving Fish is able to build up this gravitic flux.
Yves locked Valiant Guardians in, then Kindred steps up with the Shatter, but Valiant had a Blizzard waiting for them, and it's only so much Wicca can do with the sound barrier. Now we're left with Valiant Guardians still not only defending this point, but getting stagger kills on the Drainers, and this will be last fight for that point.
And blink and you miss it. Kindred was already gone before that sound barrier came out, and you know, utilizing that and the Shatter and getting absolutely nothing is pretty rough if you're Drainers. They still have an opportunity to go in for a touch here, but it's going to be a desperation touch if anything. You still have their Gravitic Flux to worry about, and now you only are going to have Zepturn's Immortality Field to cancel it if and when that comes out. There is no touch. It won't come out, as a matter of fact. We're going to our fourth point here on Surasa. 2-1 for Valiant Guardians.
Trainers giving that point up maybe gives them a positional advantage for this next point. They know that defending with Reinhardt is important, but the Ant Matrix comes up from Valiant Guardians to break through before it's unlocked, and the Blizzard denied there from Yves as Valiant Guardians stepped up. No kills exchanged yet. Next trigger being pulled. Gravitic Flux onto those supports. Zep pops the Immortality, barely dodges the Accretion, might have still got hit by it. Valiant have trapped those supports and have shredded every other ounce of Drainers on this point before they could even cap.
That eat onto the Blizzard was everything. Great play there from Moving Fish, and then following it up with their Gravitic Flux, and like I said, they only had the Immortality Field to counter it did Drainers, and that's not really enough, because once that lamp goes down, you still have to vacate the premises, or else you're going to fall victim to some of those Hyperspheres, and that they did. Drainers, KJ has the overclock, which could be something, but without a positional advantage or a way to really leverage it, they're gonna have to go for something really aggressive, which it's just what they do.
You can have some overclock action here too. KJ goes for that sound barrier preemptively and the May wall. Not a lot of line of sight options for KJ, but putting in good damage and focusing that onto Wisp. So Valiant don't want to stand idly by. They throw the Blizzard in the face of Drainers who were stepped up looking for targets. And they get frozen up and taken down by Valiant again.
It's just clinical from Drainers here. That's also going to be a late stagger onto Wicca. That's the speed boost now gone. That might have just removed any potential for there to be a touch. Drainers, they don't want to swap the fast heroes. They want to try and take it. The teleporter should get Kindred in position to get a touch here, and she has the Shatter. She has to use it.
Okay, that's 3 down from Valiant, but they're still living through it with the Ant Matrix 2. Kindred can't follow up. Decides to go back to the point because it's 99%. The sound barrier allowed Kindred to be a little extra aggressive, but they're getting bullied by everyone. And they, too aggressive. A little bit off the point there. Valiant will steal the point and the map.
Not quite a C9 because there was a last-second boop there from Caro to prevent Kindred from getting back to the point, but that aggression kind of put herself in that situation where she's just kind of stuck between trying to pressure down everybody that will kill her if she doesn't keep the aggression up and trying to keep the point alive, and she chose the former. It was the latter that bit her in the butt, and Drainers have dropped another map, and they are now staring down the barrel of elimination here. It might be a repeat of the last tournament in our grand finals, Valiant Guardians against Washington Timeless, unless Drainers have everything to say about it, and if they do, now is the time to speak up.
And you were mentioning earlier that Drainers 2-0'd Valiant Guardians in that Swiss bracket, and then now they just have never lost a map to Valiant Guardians. And how about the script is being reversed in the faces of Drainers. And Valiant Guardians, I just think playing off of the Sigma, they knew how to take a preemptive engage and keep Wisp alive. That was what's most important. And Drainers just got really stuck there on some points and managing and knowing how to defend, going for plays like this that were heavily punished. That's really what the key word here for Valiant Guardian is punishing Kindred.
I mean, and yeah, they definitely did need to be punished because they've been quite naughty indeed throughout this entire tournament, and maybe a little bit of punishment for that 2-0 that they had over Valiant Guardians in Swiss, like we've called out. And something I want to highlight about that particular victory is that at the time, Valiant Guardians did not have Aramori in their backline. She was not able to play, so the backline for Valiant Guardians looked a little different, but now it looks ironclad, and you can even see in the head-to-head Caro versus Wicca. Wicca doing a lot of damage and a lot of healing as well. That is a symptom of that aggression, but such is life and such is death when you are playing this hyper-aggressive composition that the Drainers love to play. Caro can play a little bit more safe, do more healing, get more sound barriers off successfully, are, you know, less sound barriers off, but the ones that are used are much more effective and do amount in team fight wins. And that is what you're looking for in a Lucio right now.
Yeah, the survivability of your supports and how long they can contribute to the fight for is so important. And Caro did an incredible job to make those calls early. And that's why you have so low amount of deaths, because it felt like their team really decided on when the engages were happening and on what terms. So Valiant Guardians, incredible job to slowly turn this series in their favor.
Well, on what terms will the next fight be? It is on Drainer's terms, and they have chosen to take us to Coliseo for our 4th map. I finally get to cast a push map all weekend, all 2 weekends long. It has eluded me thus far. I'm excited to be able to get into it. Push is a very fun game mode, and one that I do think feeds into the type of chaotic style that Drainers wants to play. But in the past 2 maps, you know, Valiant Guardians have gotten increasingly more successful at keeping them at bay. If they're able to get some momentum underneath them, start to walk, start to run, eventually, Drainers are going to run out of steam.
And this is where the Symmetra of Yves is going to be so critical in Coliseo, especially that neutral point is such a long road. Sigma is going to prevail there unless you have a gap closing option of a Symmetra, or maybe layers of speed. You can run the Queen and the Lucio if that is the rush of choice. I would hope to see some Sigma out of Kindred, but we haven't seen much of that. They've countered to other options. But Valiant Guardians have learned to adapt against the Symmetra teleport fights that have come up in front of them. So I think Valiant Guardians have a good game plan moving forward.
You know what's crazy too is, like, I've casted a lot of Kindred's games. Her Sigma is also sick. She could totally just bust that out at any time if she wants to, but she has been just chugging pre-workout or whatever lately. She's so hyped up on these really, really hyper-aggressive tanks. She does not want to sit idly by and poke away with those hyperspheres. She wants to hurt you, and she is going to do it. And, I mean, she's been pretty successful thus far, but again, on the last 2 maps, it has been stifled. They've managed to, you know, hold their hands out, stop Kindred from getting too close, stop her in her tracks, punish her when she goes too aggressive or when she goes for a very, very aggressive shatter. I'm predicting she's going to come out on the Reinhardt again, and if it gets punished, this might be where Drainers, their run might be up.
Yeah, how you approach this neutral point, it is such a long distance type of fight. The gap closing is what's going to be key to watch there. But once you win that first fight, you have to have compositions that don't do well against poke are going to struggle to go up that staircase, try and take control of that bridge. That is a very awkward part of Coliseo to try and maneuver around if you're a rush composition. It's probably the map that I would say London struggle with the most, but it's still one that they're successful on. So if you are Drainers, you're looking at London and how they maneuvered around this, there is no hesitation that can happen in your mind. You must be always going, because Ryan, like we said, cannot take poke for that long, while Valiant may just have better poke after all.
As difficult as those bridges are for a rush comp to take, it is easy mode for a Sigma to hold. So, I mean, if you're Drainers, you have to try and break that lightning fast. You can't let Valiant Guardians get set up on that high ground there, because they can poke and prod at you from forever, make you feel super, super uncomfortable. That's where, again, Yves with the teleport plays might end up coming into play if Kindred does indeed go for the big hammer man once again, which I kind of predict that she will. That's the part of the map that I want to hyper fixate on, is those bridges right there.
I hope that HK doesn't get baited into playing Mei. I think Mei is very difficult to pull off. It's more of a closer to medium range hero. Like, yes, the icicles are great, but it's more about the utility of why you use Mei and how you're using that Mei wall to isolate Kindred, which I think that with a full shield, with a lot of armor, Kindred can live through that. Zep has been incredibly reliable on the Baptiste, so I hope HK just goes for a poke-style hero and not a Mei, because we've seen Mei fall before, but of course it was great on Surasa when you can play close, when you can be very close to engages space-wise. But this is a very long-range map at times, and Mei doesn't work well there.
Let's have a look-see. Yep, okay, yeah, she's showing the Mei right now. It is still attacker spawns, and I don't want to take the bait too hard, though, but Wisps, what are you doing? The Mei, I think, is very well suited to that first fight, that very neutral ground in the middle that is very long. It's a very long fight over the bot in that initial capture of it. Once we start to get to those high grounds is where you might see the poke style hero swaps come out from HK. She might swap over to the Genji or something a little bit more assassination or poke or prod heavy. Yeah, but for now, Valiant Guardians are sticking with what has worked, and that is using this Sigma Rush variant to control the tempo. And Drainers, as predicted, on the Hammerman.
See how close HK can get isolating Kindred. You can do these walls sort of near the edges of the wall, but it's not going to be the full isolation. Kindred may manage to get around it. Valiant Guardians, now they have Moving Fish present in front of the bot. Kindred trying to regenerate that shield and almost not able to. Is forced to fight at half health. Has KJ in tank form just shredding down Valiant, forcing them back in. HK didn't get the memo about the rotation.
HK gets caught out pretty heavily there, and yeah, that Mei that we talked about no longer a factor, and neither are Zepturn and Yves. It's pretty even both sides, but Drainers are getting a little bit of headway, getting a little bit of bot progress early, and that's going to be huge, especially if they're able to go much further, but it looks like they don't want to. They're actually going to think better of it, trying to play for optimal positioning, get themselves back to full strength.
Yeah, HK, I could tell, was trying to get in the creative angle looking for these Mei wall isolations, but where you ice block too can have you trapped and almost bait your team into helping you survive, and might just lock you into a fight that you are not ready to take yet. And speaking of that, you got the Amp Matrix ready from Aramori. The Mei wall comes up from HK to delay the push there from Drainers, and at least you're out of line of sight of this Amp Matrix, but here it is. Aramori pops around the corner. Drainers seem to be in a safe position to even fire back with their own, but they decide not to use Zeps.
This is just classic Colosseo. This first fight goes on forever, and HK wants to put a stop to it. She's back and out for blood, takes down Yves. No sim wall coming up anytime soon, but it's not going to be enough to evict Drainers from the point just yet.
Ooh, you cancel the accretion if you're Kindred. KJ steps up to help this push, and all this poke damage coming around this Reinhardt is what finds KJ in the end. And Valiant will pull off this fight, especially removing Kindred, which was the biggest threat there at close range. Valiant Guardians will be able to take the lead from this.
And, I mean, aside from Zepturn's Amp Matrix early on there, and I believe Aramori popped one a little bit before, it's been pretty dry thus far, and it's about to get quite moist in the ult bank department because both teams are coming up on a wealth of ultimates. Save for Yves, who's going to have to take another break before they're able to get up to that photon barrier.
I think that ult might have gotten the kids there by the accretion. KJ, that was a choice, but got, I think, Mei walled up by HK, which was amazing. Valiant just walk right into the shatter of Kindred, the sound barrier of Karo, plus the blizzard of HK. Is it enough to stop Drainers in their tracks? Will they go back up the stairs, use the photon barrier of Yves to protect themselves, and Valiant are left with not enough bodies to keep this pushed?
Especially if Aramori falls. Look at her health bar right now. She is criminally low. Moving Fish getting even lower. The Immortality Field's gonna come out from Aramori to keep everybody alive. But Valiant Guardians have given up a ton of space. They no longer have the favorable position, and Kindred wants to take all of the space.
Oh my god, Moving Fish using the ult just to escape with the Amp Matrix hitting sound barrier in their face. That is what you needed to do to survive, so good idea by Moving Fish.
Very much the Houdini plays of Sigma plays that I've ever seen. But I mean, now the ult banks are pretty much drained on both sides. Neither team realistically has an advantage, so we're back to this neutral fight in the center of the map that feels like it just never ends.
Okay, the Bastion of Wisp forces Kindred to take a step back. See Moving Fish trying to take space but doesn't have a shield. HK can't really stop what Kindred is up to, just keeps on swinging. And this is why this may have issues. If you're not able to protect your team, if you're not able to stop Kindred and find the kill onto the Reinhardt, maybe Drainers will be just let loose. They have a lot of freedom, and now this Mei wall might have just killed Kindred. HK should have just went for the melee. That might have been enough to kill them. But I think unsure on if that was going to be successful. Drainers barely scraping by this fight.
No melee, so the Mei gets laid low there, but despite that, Valiant Guardians are able to evict Drainers from the point. Wisps comes back with 3 big kills, and yeah, Drainers, they aren't able to take the lead. The bot just kind of stalling out there. Moving Fish going to go ahead and take control of that, and yeah, Drainers, they were able to stay alive for a little bit longer than I think they had any business doing, but that was kind of all Valiant Guardians who are going to keep the bot going in their favor despite Drainer's sizable ult advantage. Where is Kindred Shatter going to land this time?
Yeah, the giant hammer coming through the wall might have been a hint, and it still lands on Moving Fish. It combines with the artillery of KJ, and 2 fall immediately from Valiant. They still have a 44-meter lead with 5 minutes left. It's Drainers that may be good at winning retakes, that may be good at winning these neutral fights, but how do they climb up these stairs? They need to stop Wisp from getting up there. The artillery is being thrown. This Lucio's only a distraction. The Soundbear of Karo saves the entire team and punishes Kindred. That has been the recipe for success when it comes to Valiant Guardians.
You ask how Valiant Guardians are supposed to get up those stairs. It has to be quick. It has to be pure unbridled aggression, but it gets punished once again. They bait Kindred in. They pop the sound barrier. They pop the Mei wall behind her so she can't get out. There is no escape, and she falls. And suddenly, Drainers have once again failed to take control of that high ground, and they're struggling to maintain control of their own.
Oh, man. Valiant Guardians want to extend what they have, but they have to deal with Kindred and friends rushing into the backline, and Yves can only sit there and watch. Trainers have control back of the bot and have let Valiant escape.
Valiant slipping out the back door, but this is fine. They can just retreat back over to the high ground, leverage that advantage, but they're going to play the low ground and pop the Ant Matrix.
Oh, Kindred is barely alive. The Soundbearer may help, but for how long? This Gravitic Flux is all for Kindred with love. And KJ trying to deal with this Sigma, and Yves can't escape either. Now they're gonna get staggered, and Valiant will keep their lead.
That's excellent timing on the Gravitic Flux there from Moving Fish. They know how to play this Sigma so well. Sees the sound barrier that's popped from Wicca and drops the Gravitic Flux the very second that the overhealth would bleed away too long. By the time Kindred hit the ground, there was no hope left for her. And yeah, again, Valiant Guardians, they're draining the coffers a bit, investing a lot of ultimates, but they're finding value for it, whereas Drainers, I mean, Kindred's Shatters have been pretty hit and miss. When they hit, they sure do hit, and Kindred wants to hit another big one.
Oh, waiting. Wanted to combine this maybe with the artillery and didn't see a moment. Was worried about the Blizzard, and the Blizzard gets no one. The Shatter, well countered by the ice block of HK, and Wisp gets shot without the protection there of Kindred, who was hiding in the closet. But Valiant are just losing members left and right, and Drainers, like I said, are so proficient at winning these neutral fights. But again, how do they get up this corner staircase?
Again, they have to be absolutely swift. I want to give a quick shout out to Karo, by the way, who I believe booped Kindred up just a little bit to delay the Shatter and give HK time to pop that ice block. That is a great way to block that Shatter. But despite that, the fight still goes on a little bit longer. Drainers win it, but they lost a lot of time. And now Valiant Guardians up on that high ground are going to leverage the clock against Drainers and leverage the high ground, force them into this little bar here.
The bot got stolen by Karo, so Drainers are, this fight is gonna cost them more. And Kindred is in a corner with trying to avoid the artillery, and the bot is just gone along with the rest of Drainers. That was the fight for the lead. There's still 2 minutes left, but Drainers dropped the bag and forgot about the bot.
Yeah, Karo just sneaks off like a thief in the night with the bot. And I mean, Wicca and Kindred, the 2-girl hit squad, go back to try and deal with him. But I mean, with the rest of the reinforcements coming from Valiant Guardians and with the bot now firmly in their control, there's nothing they can do. They take down Kindred early.
This Ant Matrix plus Bastion is crazy. KJ had to throw everything at that, including Wicca with the assist. Now this fight for the bridge continues, and Valiant's lead is only going to grow more and more. And they may even get forward spawns. Drainers are in trouble. It's match point for Valiant Guardians.
It's spiraling out of control. You live by the chaos and die by it, and Drainers, they're getting a little bit too chaotic here. They have to rein themselves in and try and just play some pure academic Overwatch, because Valiant Guardians, look at their ult economy. They have got everything they could possibly want. The 2 big offensive ultimates and the defensive one. Wicca has to be perfect with her sound barrier to try and match it. Moving Fish has been great with these Gravitic Fluxes. Are they going to hit another big one? There's a wall to section them off. Is the punish there, though?
Oh, the Gravitic Flux just to dodge the pin. The sound barrier is so perfectly timed for that ultimate. But now those are out of the picture. Zep will have the Ant Matrix. They want to funnel Guardians in a specific alley, but that is what HK wanted with this Blizzard. And the Mei wall behind Kindred, they can't escape. Drainers were trying to get in position for the Ant Matrix and walked into a trap.
It was a trap laid specifically for Kindred, and once again, the jaws snap shut, and she is caught in it, and now here's another trap. Come contest the bot, we dare you. Valiant Guardians have control. They know that Drainers, if they touch it all, it will be a suboptimal touch. It doesn't look like anybody's fast enough is going to be able to get there. Kindred, with the charge, is able to get the touch, keep Overtime alive. They have the ults. Can they do this? It is now or never for the Drainers.
And the Shatter at the ready, and Valiant are fine for Drainers to keep pushing this because that forces Kindred to take more poke, and the Matrix comes up, and a Wisp is found, not able to jump out of the grenade. Drainers have the 5v4. This train has to keep going. The May wall is only going to delay them. Drainers climb the stairs, and they have a Shatter. This could be what makes or breaks this push for Drainers, while needing to leave one person to contest, but Moving Fish is up there contesting, so Kindred needs to remove them by force. The Shatter may have gotten some, if maybe at all, and Drainers are left without any big ultimates. Maybe this Blizzard, if Yves can even get it in time, but Wisp is angry. You took them out too early, and Drainers will be sleeping permanently. Valiant Guardians, with the retake of a lifetime, have drained the Drainers, have put them down the sink, and Valiant Guardians will move on.
It is going to be that fated rematch from the previous Calling All Heroes minor. It will be Valiant Guardians versus Washington Timeless for our grand finals matchup. What a performance, what a show that Drainers put on, even in defeat, keeping it exciting until the last possible second. And this essentially right here, oh sorry, no, this is a little bit earlier, but a very similar picture actually towards the very end, where Kindred is trying to go super aggressive because she knows she has to. That is the win condition that Drainers time and time again set up for themselves. She had to try and remove somebody with the Shatter, but it didn't find enough. The Immortality field was good, enough block, enough peel came through, and she couldn't find purchase for it, and she gets punished. Without that Reinhardt on the field, Wisp pops the overclock, and suddenly it's just a shooting gallery with no shield, no tank, no big beefy health bar to absorb all that damage. Only the dainty little bodies of the squishies that remain, and they were swiftly evicted. Valiant Guardians, they did it. They stopped the Drain Gang. They finally stopped the bleeding. The pain train has now left the station, and it is not coming back.
Valiant Guardians, we applauded their defense when it started on Midtown, where they just killed so many minutes, and killed Drainers as well, but for so many minutes, and it felt this Colosseo felt reminiscent of that. How Valiant Guardians defended that bridge, having Moving Fish contest the bot from on top of the bridge, to supporting Wisp and their crazy Bastion mechanics, to stopping Kindred from, I don't even know, yeah, I think this was the ice block. So it was an ice block that denied a huge win condition for Drainers, probably the only one that was left. And for Valiant to win the fight as quickly as they did before more ultimates came out, their defense is what can be applauded here.
We got to give huge shout outs to HKey for blocking all of those shatters, be it with either the May walls or the ice blocks. She has, I mean, when you keep going for the same thing, eventually you're going to get a little bit more and more predictable, unfortunately, for Kindred. But, I mean, HKey read her like a book every time with those ice blocks. There was that one where, again, Caro did kind of aid in that as well. And that's where the team play of Valiant Guardians comes to the forefront. But the individual talent is definitely not something to be sneezed at. And what an individual talent HK has proven to be on the May. Truly the bane of Kindreds everywhere, or specifically on the side of Drainers. But speaking of talent, we got a talent from the side of Valiant Guardians. It's not going to be HQ. We actually want to talk to Aramori and see what her thoughts are on the matter, on the win over Drainers, and on their march towards grand finals. Don't go anywhere. We're going to throw to a quick break. We're going to get Aramori in here and hear her thoughts. We'll see you in a bit. Welcome back, everybody. Drainers were quite the maelstrom, but Valiant Guardians, they learned to adapt and thrive in the chaos that Drainers sowed, and they bested them 3-1 to punch their ticket to Grand Finals, and surely a key part of that was the support player, Aramori, the always lovely Aramori, joining us for an interview. How are you doing today?
Hi CV, hi Lemon, hi everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm doing swell.
I want to kick things off by asking you, of course, the softball question. So how does it feel to be back not only in another Calling All Heroes tournament, but to be punching your ticket to the Grand Finals for another Calling All Heroes tournament?
Well, I'm always very blessed to be playing in KA. I love KA. I love all of the players in KA. Being back in Grand Finals, y'all, this is like my 4th time being second in KA. Okay, it's having secured second. I have never won a Calling All Heroes. I need it to be my time today. Hopefully.
Today's got to be the day.
Yeah.
It's got to be the year of you. I'm thinking, I'm getting the vibes based off the match. But speaking of that match, that was like based on the Swiss, because y'all lost to Trainers, right, in Swiss, and now you beat them. So what was different between those two matches?
Oh, well, to be completely honest, I was not playing for any of like the Swiss maps, so having
so
that...
you're the difference. Got it.
Yeah, just me. No, I'm kidding. My team played really well. I believe it was just like hard matchups. Like we had a really hard bracket from what I remember in Swiss, but we were able to like pull it back. Like this week for us was like really intense scrims and VOD review and stuff, and of course like. Lep, our coach, has been helping so much.
Intense coaching and intense VOD review, and it does show in your gameplay as well. And I want to talk a little bit about that because Drainers are a very difficult team to play against, as we've seen. Many tried and many have failed. So what was the secret sauce that let you guys finally put a stop to the pain train?
Well, we had a long discussion about running the Orisa Genji Bastion comp versus the Sigma like Mei style comp, and we just ultimately decided that the Sigma Mei just kind of fits our playstyle a lot more and kind of lets fish do what they want and be the moving fish. So we ultimately decided to go with that, and Fish has not disappointed us. I don't know if you guys could see the stats at the end of that, but Fish, they ended up ending the map with like 13k damage, which was just insane.
Just your whole team played so well, and just it looked like y'all had to adapt a lot around just kind of the Symmetra shenanigans, the Reinhardt stuff, and y'all punished Kindred really well. But how will you do against your finals opponent now, Washington Timeless, who haven't dropped a game? I know you said it's the year of you, but please elaborate. What do you think about this final?
I definitely think it's going to be a very interesting and tough match. Yeah, like you said, they have not dropped a map for the entire series so far, so it's definitely looking like they are the giants to beat. But I think they have a really good foundation, but I think there are cracks in it. I think it's possible for us to come out and win. We just have to play our game and play well, and trust each other, and I think we can.
I believe in you. From what I have seen today, I thoroughly believe that if you trust in each other, believe in each other, you are capable of doing just that. But surely first you're going to have a long talk with your team about just how it is you're going to pull off such a feat. So we're going to send you off. But before we do you have any last minute shout outs you want to give? Any other final words before we get you back into the dugout to plot with the team?
Well, shout out myself. Hi, I'm Aramori. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter. Hey. But also big shout out to my team. I love them so much. And shout out to all my old teammates on Drainers as well. Miss you guys. Love you guys. Thank you.
So wholesome. Thank you so much for the time in the interview. Good luck in the final.
Thank you. Bye.
It's always lovely to get to talk to Aramori. She's such a ray of sunshine, but not going to be much of a ray of sunshine if you're the Washington Timeless. Definitely a harbinger of what's to come.
Wow, a team that has not dropped a game yet, a team with so many huge names, some amazing Canadian talent too. Shout out to, hence the You know, we got the merch. We don't get to show it off too often. But yeah, that's gonna be an amazing matchup between two teams supported by the Overwatch League 2, Washington Timeless, Valiant Guardians. It's the script is there, CB.
It's great. I love the Overwatch League support for a lot of these teams investing in this tier of talent because again, a lot of underrepresented talent here, and it's insane talent. Like we've seen top to bottom all weekend long, all weekend last weekend. There is so much to love here, so much action, and so much raw, untapped potential in some of these players. And some of the Overwatch League teams have caught on to that and decided, hey, maybe we need to promote these guys. Maybe we need to elevate some of the people in this scene because we will all rise together if we do just that. So thank you to Toronto Defiant as well for being among those to see the potential in calling all heroes. But chat, we only have one more game today, and it is our grand finals matchup against Valiant Guardians versus the Washington Timeless, who will be our champions of this tournament. There is only one way to find out. We're going to throw to a break while we get the game set up. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. I promise you do not want to miss this. Welcome back, gamers, to Calling All Heroes Rise Together Minor 3, hosted, of course, by Toronto Defiant. My name is CB. I am joined, of course, by the lovely Lemon Kiwi, and it is Grand Finals time. True to the nature of Calling All Heroes, all of the heroes answered the call. 17 teams came to play, and we have bid farewell to all but the two very best who are ready to go head-to-head for that cash prize and those circuit points.
Yeah, Toronto versus Valiant, or why did I say Toronto? Washington versus Valiant, hosted by Toronto. There's just so much OWL representation here. I'm excited for this final. 2,500 Canadian on the line. If we can take a look at the bracket to show this journey, because what's important, what I want you to all notice, is Washington Timeless haven't dropped a game. Will their armor ever be cracked? Valiant Guardians seem to think that it can be exploited.
I want to go ahead and apologize. I have errantly been calling them the Washington Timeless this whole time, when yesterday I coined the phrase Washington Flawless, because
Ooh,
they haven't dropped
like
a map all throughout the bracket, nor did they drop a single map in Swiss. No one has even made them bleed, much less been able to topple the tyrants that they are. Have a look at this graphic right here. I don't even need to say anything. This tells the entire story. It's their story to write.
And you'll notice that second match, they 2-0'd the Valiant Guardians, but this was pretty early in the Swiss stage. You notice that Valiant Guardians didn't have Aramori, and maybe it's an Aramori differential because, hey, Valiant Guardians have blossomed and improved so much from the Swiss to this point. I mean, they were even able to beat Drainers, who were an opponent that gave them a hard time before. So I'm sure they're studied up on Washington Timeless and what they like to run, but you and I were talking before the break that this is going to be a really fun tank matchup.
Absolutely. Moving Fish versus Sniper, it never ever disappoints. These are two players that, once again, on their teams in Contenders and Collegiate throughout all of their careers, have been Sigma specialists, brought on specifically to play that hero on Circuit Royale. And now that we are in a Sigma meta, they are getting the opportunity to fully blossom before our very eyes. But which of the two is going to get the better? In the past, it has been Sniper. Maybe today it will be Moving Fish, but there's not just the Sigma head-to-head that we need to keep in mind. The Mei head-to-head is also something that I want to keep in mind, because Bun's Mei play has been impeccable. One of the greatest Mei players that I've seen in Calling All Heroes. Some incredible walls, every bit as good as HK was in the previous series, if not better. That's going to be a back and forth to watch.
Yeah, Bun, I've been a huge fan for her. I need to sign up as her agent because I've been trying to sell her to Overwatch League for so long. And I think she's right on the precipice of, being a woman in Overwatch League that could just dominate. So I'm looking forward to seeing her career blossom, of course. There's also a thing with tanks choosing Mercy as their profile picture here. So, Sniper, you're goofy.
She got the
I
buff
like
patch.
it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Mercy's just a buff now. We've made her a tank. We've given her 24-inch pythons on both arms, and now she is scary. She's frightening. She's quite imposing. Look at that face. That is the face of a cold-blooded killer right there. And that's exactly what Valiant Guardians are going to need to be if they want to take down the Washington Flawless / Timeless. We just saw this roster in action, and it's an incredible roster. They're playing together very well. Aramori slotting back in has paid dividends for this team. And, we can call her the difference maker, but any one of these players is capable of making the difference. We've seen big plays come out from every single one of these names, even in just the previous series, let alone the entirety of this Calling All Heroes tournament.
And we highlighted Caro on that Lucio and how good he was at enabling Moving Fish, at really speeding them around and making those, go all in type of calls. Caro was really good about that. But going up against Halo, who she has been astounding. Her career as a support player doesn't get talked enough about, especially for marginalized genders. Halo has been just a groundbreaking support player in the scene. So that is going to be a tough matchup between Caro and Halo on that Lucio. And what kind of calls are they going to make? And is it going to be the right one?
you know, this might get like a little personal here really quick, but without players like Halo already being in the scene, it is safe to say I might not have felt as comfortable getting into the scene as I am now. So I want to thank her for that, but also I want to thank her for being a phenomenal player, because she has also been quite the difference maker for Washington Timeless, being picked up between tournaments from Valiant Guardians. That's quite a coup to be able to take her away from her former team and utilize her to such great extent to dominate your old team and every other team that dares step in your way. It's been a phenomenal thing to see. She knows Valiant Guardians well. Valiant Guardians have to be one step ahead here, because it feels like they have been behind the entire time. Washington Timeless, like I said, it's their story to write. It's their game to play. It's their game to lose. Do Valiant Guardians have a curveball they can throw them?
Well, it's their bracket to win, it seems, but Washington also have the choice of map of where they want to go to first. And just a reminder, there is no bracket reset, there is no +1. This is just a vanilla best of 5. It's an all-out showdown where Valiant rose from these ashes to see if they can be the first team in all of Calling All Heroes to take a game, and maybe even a series if they can go all the way. And, well, Washington have locked in their choice, and they want to go to Antarctic Peninsula.
This, I think, is actually kind of a curious choice here, because I mentioned how both of the tank players are Sigma specialists. You would think that they would want to go to something where they can play the Sigma. Granted, there's not very many control points that are very conducive to it, but I like to think that there is an opportunity for one of these teams to come out with a rush composition. I don't think that's what we're going to see, but Antarctic Peninsula is very, very rush favored, so we'll have to see. I think it's going to be Sigma v Sigma yet again, but it's always opportunity for one of those aforementioned curveballs.
And you talked about Bun's May at the beginning of this whole show. And yes, maybe I'm sad to see her not on a hit scan, on a more utility-based hero, because that potential is all there. But a really good May player on Antarctic is so huge. There are so many small choke points that May can get complete isolation on a tank, or maybe more on. And if Bun is as good of a May as you say she is, that could be a huge boon for Washington.
Absolutely. I mean, especially on Icebreaker, where it is all about controlling those angles. There's not a whole lot of high ground to leverage there, so you're just trying to use those chokes, use those May walls to section off the enemy tank or section off the entire enemy backline away from any sort of protection, move in swiftly and eliminate them. That's May 101, especially in the Rush Mirror. Even in the Sigma variation, not much has changed. But one thing that I think is changing is people are becoming more and more aware of just how good at that job Bun is. You call out, her hit scan prowess, and the level of flexibility that she brings is showing in her May play, in her ability to hit the walls at the right time, use the blizzards to maximum effectiveness. Her May play has been a driving force in Washington Timeless' success, but it is indeed a 5-person job, and all 5 members of Washington Timeless have been flawless this entire time.
It's going to be a good match. Let us know in chat who you're cheering on for this Calling All Heroes Minor 3 Grand Final with $2,500 Canadian on the line. And of course, circuit points to help them qualify for more down the line. It's Washington versus Valiant. And maybe some beef can be settled in terms of the brands. I don't know. And I did not know that turret could do that. So I'm learning so much from this.
Maybe the beef will be settled, but nothing will settle this turret down. It's as jittery as they come. It's as excited as we are to get into this final game here. We're going to kick it off with, hey, it's that Sig v Sig mirror. I don't think Aramori is going to stay on that Life Weaver. I also don't think Karo is going to stay on this Moira. There we go. That's much better. This is much more what I expected to see. No variations, just the mirror. It's what both of these teams have been successful at thus far. Why change it up now?
You go towards the point. It's all about these May isolation walls, and you have to be clinical at executing these. You can see that Moving Fish has already eaten an accretion, trying to take control of this top side, and Snozlor is taking a lot of poke too. It has to be careful. Where is Sniper to step up and lead this charge, and most importantly, enable your Bastion to move forward?
It's the same thing as we saw the last time these two teams collided. I mean, it was Washington Timeless positioning themselves where Valiant Guardians have to go through them in order to get to the point. So even though this fight drags on, and even though Z falls, Washington Timeless do get the first cap.
Works out for Washington. They seem just pretty organized there at the start, and look at Wiz, not afraid to take that point back. So yeah, Washington were a little bit split. I meant to say Valiant seemed more organized, at least playing off their Sigma, and it pays off.
And again, you know, losing Z there is kind of the worst possible scenario for Washington Timeless because there's no real way to keep your Sigma alive, there's no real way to keep your Bastion alive, and those are two of the most important pieces in this puzzle. So, yeah, take that down. You can just march right on forward. Valiant Guardians, yeah, they only concede 11% before they take the point for themselves, and now Washington Timeless have to go through them.
Well, Snozzler is just removed, and that's so much damage gone. You can't retake with just a free roaming Bastion like Wisp running around, and Washington are now getting surrounded. Moving Fish is splitting them up and is getting kills out of it. Valiant are just farming them.
It's a great wall there from Chloe to kind of stifle the aggression, and a great window that's going to come out from Z, but all that's really going to do is back Valiant Guardians up, but they back right into the Gravitic Flux from Sniper.
So close to hitting that accretion. I like the idea of moving Fish. The Blizzard from Chloe too on top. Washington only gets slowed slightly there by the artillery of Wisp. But this fight is all for Washington. They've killed 2 or 3. But it's about how long Valiant want to contest here on this point. Like that Sniper's identified where that Bastion is. You got to be able to track those cooldowns. And, well, looks like they've denied a lot of damage from them. And Washington take the point back.
62% for Valiant Guardians is not terrible, but they don't have the sound barrier, and Haley does have one of her own. So Washington Timeless, they've got the defensive tools they need to match that capture percentage there. And Valiant Guardians, they're gonna have to try and find a way in here, leverage their very scant ult advantage there. But that sound barrier from Haley that's coming up close, that's the window. Once she has it, that window is slammed shut, and Washington Timeless, they're gonna hold.
Ooh, the Matrix right in Washington's face. They will just drop off that bridge. Valiant will be comfortable for the moment. They just have to dodge this artillery from the Bastion like chicken. But Valiant seem to be okay on that high ground. Now they're looking to flip this point. Sniper wants to deny that, steps right up, and while Sniper does that, well, the rest of their backline gets hit by that Gravitic Flux, which forces out Haley's sound barrier, but Washington are running out of options, running out of health, but somehow we're able to make sure that Sniper lives throughout that. And that is such an important anchor for Washington Timeless. And now they've got a win condition. It's this Gravitic Flux! Takes care of Carol.
You called Sniper such an important anchor. Well, anchors away, lift them up into the sky, slam them right back down. That's a great Gravitic Flux there from Sniper. I mean, Valiant Guardians found the flip in the midst of that, so 87%, that's pretty big, actually. I think Washington Timeless, had they not conceded the point there, would be in one-fight territory. Valiant Guardians, I mean, they have a little bit of time, not much, but a little bit of time to build up to a sizable ult bank, and you're looking at Chloe's Blizzard that's coming up right about now that is going to be the main tool Washington Timeless have. It cannot get eaten, it cannot be countered, and it has to find some blood.
Surprised that Washington don't even want to hold the high ground there on the left side. Maybe just trying not to get Maywalled away. They can now move around it. Washington just have to dodge away from Aramori's Amp Matrix. Chloe's on the flank, looking for a Blizzard. Do they hear this coming? It's placed at the feet of Aramori. Do they have immortality? Doesn't seem to be so. With the sound barrier of Carol bought a lot of time, but with Aramori missing, I'm not sure Valiant have the heals, and Moving Fish feels the pain because of this. Washington, with such a creative flank, a winning play out of Chloe, will be giving Washington round 1.
I mean, and it comes down to that early pickoff there onto Wisps, who had the artillery strike but wasn't able to leverage it. And without your Bastion on the field, the Amp Matrix that came out was not amping a whole lot. It was amping a couple of icicles from H-Key and not much else. Chloe just goes in with the Blizzard, forces Valiant Guardians to take the fight off of the point, while the rest of Washington Timeless just march forward, take space, and lock Valiant Guardians out of even touching the point there. Again, I mean, they had the time to try and build up to something, did Valiant Guardians, but that kill from Wisps just ran out the clock instantly, took it all away from them. And now, I mean, Washington Timeless, they're looking poised to take this one as we go on to Icebreaker, no compositional swaps, and they got to be feeling themselves because that was a pretty decisive fight win at the tail end there.
Valiant looked like they were dominating at the start of that round, but the retake off of Sniper's Flux was the next level to punish. And this was the tank matchup we told you all to watch. Looks like the grenade might have popped the Moving Fish into the line of sight of this Bastion. Snozzler is unleashed. Valiant are trying to hide on the point, but they get booped back into the line of damage. Valiant have only dropped 1, but that Bastion missing is critical. Washington Timeless running them over like they're bulldozers. And Valiant can't seem to escape. There's some good shield usage of moving fish to at least get some ult charge going, but Washington played that first fight so well.
You cannot run, you cannot hide. Snozzler is inevitable, and even when you think you're safe, Haley is there to boop you right back into the line of fire. And all of that Bastion damage has been Snozzler's MO this entire tournament, and they're showing why, showing how effective and oppressive this hero is in the current meta. And now, once again, Washington Timeless, they're going to take an early cap here. Valiant Guardians have to try and find a way in, but when Snozzler is firing on all cylinders, how do you break through this?
The Ant Matrix from Z and how this is used is important, but RMRE knows this is coming. You can track this off of your own ultimate. H-Key exposes themselves looking for a Maywell isolation, opens themselves up to the line of fire of Washington, who are now going to hunt for more stagger kills. The immortality from RMRE is well placed, but Sniper won't let you run. The grab flex right in Valiant's face, so disrespectful. Disrespectful in Washington. Also wipe them.
And you called out Z's Ant Matrix, but they didn't even need to use the Ant Matrix, did Washington Timeless. In fact, they used the Gravitic Flux just to keep the pressure up, keep the aggression going. It was that early pickoff onto H-Key that spelled disaster for Valiant Guardians, and they haven't been able to successfully buy their way back into this matchup. They have all of the ults they can possibly want, so it's gonna have to be now or never, but Snozzler wants to run out the clock a little bit more. Here comes the artillery strike.
Who is it targeting? It was everyone behind Moving Fish who got isolated by the Maywell there of H-Key. Or from Chloe, I should say, and then the Blizzard on top. This is disgusting. Washington know how to initiate early fights. Now H-Key's been discovered and now just has the Blizzard to see if they can get a one-to-one trade. They are going for the touch. It's a little bit early. And H-Key will be staggered from that last fight. If there even is one, yeah.
There should be. Okay, with the sound barrier from Karo, there is going to be a touch from Valiant Guardians, but he has to quickly vacate the premises as there is a lot of pressure. That kitchen is a little bit too hot, and Valiant Guardians, they can't find their way back in.
Haley is... Okay, the sound barrier did go off on the rest of Washington, and they're slowly but surely taking this fight. I thought Valiant had messed this up, but yeah, they kind of have. Washington Timeless, 100-0. What dominance coming out of map 1.
I think that might have been a Gravitic Flux from Moving Fish just to try and get over the wall there to touch, and it didn't really find a whole lot because you're flying blind there. You don't know where everyone is. You don't know where to focus that Gravitic Flux to get the most out of it, and even if you had caught all 5 members of Washington Timeless, they had all the tools they could have possibly needed. Haley was there with the sound barrier, kept everybody alive. There's no real good angle to leverage that Ant Matrix, and Valiant Guardians, despite having a wealth of tools in the toolbox, were never once given a chance to use it there on Icebreaker. As close as Labs was, Icebreaker was not at all close. That was all Washington Timeless's point.
Yeah, that second round and that first fight is what was so key. Being able to defend Antarctic is important. The first round, Valiant looked like they had a strong start, and as soon as they extended out to go for stagger kills, Sniper hit him with a flux, and that was what allowed Washington Timeless to retake and eventually defend it until completion. While then Washington on the second round had some beautiful boops out of Haley. I think she was able to boot people into her own Bastion. Washington also had Snozzler, who might have hit some lucky Bastion grenades that might have booped some people into the line of fire too. So Washington just nailing that first fight in round 2 just solidified that map, it felt like.
I mean, when we talk about how successful Haley has been, the plays that she's been setting up, the boops that have been coming through time and time again and again, what a coup it was for Washington Timeless to snag that player from Valiant Guardians, and it's paying off. Karo is no slouch either. He's been a phenomenal Lucio player and has had some huge plays thus far, but Haley has been a step ahead, especially with plays like this. And I also want to highlight Snozzler, who had a phenomenal, I think nearly double the amount of damage as Wisp. But we're gonna go and hyperfixate here as well on Z, who look at the healing done. 11k, 4k damage. That's not even phenomenal stats for a Baptiste, but the one that sticks out to me, only 1 death.
That is insane. They obviously knew when to leave the fight, when to leave the party, but what's something that's not talked enough about is the timing of Ant Matrix, especially in a Bastion v sort of Sigma, Bastion v Bastion, Sigma v Sigma. The Ant Matrix is often what's going to crack that egg, and when you have someone as experienced as Z is, and obviously how survivable they have been, Z is someone that can really give Washington Timeless a big win condition, especially in the early fights, because Amp Matrix is going to be usually one of the first ultimates you get.
It is a way to crack that egg, and I know a thing or two about having my egg cracked. It happened to me, and it'll happen to you too, dear viewer. Regardless, though, yeah, that Amp Matrix timing is everything, and I think we even kind of briefly touched on it when that early pickoff came out onto Wisps. I mean, there's no real good time to throw down your Amp Matrix when you don't have your Bastion in play on the field ready to go, and I think that just comes down, again, to like all members of Washington Timeless understanding the assignment, knowing exactly when to use their cooldowns, finding those opportunities to find those pickoffs that they really shouldn't be able to find, but seizing the opportunities that are presented to them. Valiant Guardians have to stop presenting those opportunities. They have to be a little bit more clean. But hey, they dropped control to Drainers, I believe, in the previous series, so maybe they are another team that just doesn't scrim control. When we go to our hybrid map, I'm hoping Valiant Guardians have a little bit more to say.
And I think the only thing that Valiant Guardians really have to work on is ult tracking, which is not that difficult to do in their case. But I think the one key miss that happened was in round one, not knowing when Sniper had Gravitic Flux and then putting themselves in an awkward situation. But it is what it is. Valiant Guardians, I think, put up a really good fight in the first round. And it's just being able to retake on Antarctic is incredibly difficult for any team. So Valiant Guardians, I imagine, want to return to Midtown, which is a map that they were very strong at, of course, when we saw their defense in the last series, but see what they opt for.
Solomon, our prod, is saying take a wild guess for map 2, and that does also lead me to agree with you. I think it's going to be Midtown. That's my guess, but Solomon has gaslit me before.
Ooh.
Okay, not this time. Not this time. You live another day, Solomon. It is indeed Midtown. Thank you very much for that. And it's interesting because early on, we saw a lot of Numbani in the Swiss rounds, but it has trended a lot more towards Midtown. And suddenly Midtown is all you and I have gotten to see today. A lot of teams really like Midtown for the Sigma mirror.
Yeah, I think the big difference in this Sigma mirror is that, well, Valiant didn't really use too much Symmetra from what we saw. It was more them knowing how to deal with Drainer Symmetra. So how are they going to want to maneuver that Sigma around, especially on attack of Midtown? Yeah, it's kind of like a slow grind towards the point, but how you maneuver a Bastion on top of this very bridge of point B is the most difficult thing. Your option is to either cross the road and go into the right side corridor, or try your hand at just going through the left staircase, although you'll be a lot more exposed to poke that way. There are many options of approaching this bridge control without a Symmetra, but that's usually the most difficult part in attacking.
Something that you said about map 1 that I do kind of want to highlight, bring back to the forefront and extrapolate on, is that oftentimes Valiant Guardians did not know when Sniper had a Gravitic Flux, and there is a good reason for that. Sniper does a absolute insane amount of damage and gets a ton of support from the backline while doing it, so they have Gravitic Flux seemingly off cooldown. Pay attention to that checkmark. It will be up more often than you think it is, and when you don't see it coming and we are not prepared for it, much like I didn't see this OO coming and I wasn't prepared for it, can I get some OOs in the chat? Please and thank you. When you don't see that Gravitic Flux coming and you're not prepared for it, you just kind of fall over. So Washington Timeless, they have no problems taking things slowly, building up to that win condition.
Yeah, I think Sniper has been incredibly productive as a Sigma, and Snozzler is just a perfect complement. Chloe going on the flank like that? Actually, she's just insane. And the fact that Valiant didn't see that coming, that was a game-winning play on the round 2 of Antarctic. We'll see what kind of creative plays Washington can go for. And they do maybe want to keep in mind of that left back alley, which not a lot of teams use with this type of composition. So no Symmetra in play. Valiant are just going to have to brute force their way in.
I have seen a couple teams crack this defense by utilizing that back alley, but typically with a more poke-heavy composition on the DPS, something like a Sojourn or even an Inyari, but we're still not seeing that. No deviations, just pure mirror. These two teams playing what they're the most comfortable with, but Washington Timeless feel a little bit more comfortable with it, and Valiant Guardians cannot comfortably get their way in here.
You don't often get to see an attacking team push that top tunnel, and that was nice to try and boop the Bastion off that kind of high ground position on the stairs. It was successful at displacing, but not necessarily turning a fight in the favor of Valiant, who are still struggling to escape, apparently.
It's really hard to escape when Washington Timeless do not let you. This is, again, some more of that pure unbridled aggression that is going to make it so difficult for Valiant Guardians to even get to the choke, even sit pretty, as Wisp sits really pretty up on top of that Mei wall, and a couple quick icicles from Chloe. I mean, we talk about how good she is on Mei, but that's just a flex right there to wall off a Bastion and spawn and then hit the double icicle to the dome. A little bit annoying if you're Wisp, going to continue to slow down the pace as about a minute and a half has already bled off the time bank, and Valiant Guardians don't have anything to show for it.
Yeah, you have to play these corners very smartly if you're both of these teams. You know Amp Matrix is up, and if you're caught just 1 second out of it, out in the open, you can be killed, but Valiant thought they could move up to place that Amp Matrix. They walk into the Gravitic Flux, which got H-Key low, and now they escape into the hallway, but Chloe's not gonna let you do that. Places the Mei wall and the Blizzard. Valiant are in shambles.
And Washington Timeless, like, they have the ult advantage. They are not currently aware of Karo's whereabouts as he goes in for a cap, but Haley is there to contest, and maybe a friendly Lucio 1v1? No, okay, no, you have found no friends here, Karo. Back to spawn, that's where the rest of your friends are. Take another collab, coach, go back at it. Washington Timeless have no problem investing ults and pressing the advantage when they know they have it, but that said, they have now handed an ult advantage over to Valiant Guardians. The question is, can they leverage it? Will they be given an opportunity to utilize it, or will another early pick completely wipe that off the table?
Yeah, because Haley used Sound Barrier, this Gravitic Flux could be huge. You dodge to grab Flux, you go for Z, thinking they don't have Immortality. That was the correct call out of Moving Fish, but you lose your own Bastion in the process, and Moving Fish doesn't have enough support here, or a shield to stand behind. Just when you thought Valiant had a good initiative, taking out one of the biggest healers of Washington, Valiant still crumble under the pressure.
It's kind of counterintuitive, but it does work out the way Washington Timeless just split off there. So yeah, the Gravitic Flux only catches Z, which is potentially the highest value target. And they take Z down before they're even able to hit the ground, so they don't even have to worry about whether or not the Immortality field was there. Nullify that possibility, but they failed to capitalize on that pick because the rest of Washington Timeless just swarmed them. Valiant Guardians still have the ult advantage and still have yet to successfully leverage it.
Be a big... Oh, I love the jumps coming out of Z. You avoid the splash damage. You take the risk of going or getting hit by the direct, but Valiant still don't get enough damage in. And as H-Key steps up, they're removed. You don't have a Blizzard win condition, and Karo's already popped the Sound Barrier, so Valiant feel committed in this fight. And now as they're exiting, they're getting Mei walled off by Chloe. This has been so clinical out of Washington Timeless, and now you truly understand why they haven't lost a game, all calling all heroes.
And today they might not. This might not be the map that they drop. There's that Blizzard coming out from H-Key, but it's just to get them to the choke, not even through it, and she gets punished for it. Gravitic Flux just to slam anybody that dares try to step up from Sniper. Snozzler is melting down everybody. 7 seconds left, and Washington Timeless are not letting Valiant Guardians have even an inch.
No one will be there to touch, and that'll be the end of that attack because Haley has the music over there.
Oh,
Valiant,
she is playing a
no
death
kick.
march for Valiant Guardians there.
That was... This is a map that exposes just which team is the better Sigma composition. I think Valiant had some good openings off the Grav Flux. Just unfortunately just kept losing a member once they stepped through the archway. And what I loved about Washington is the respect of space. They are not afraid to keep stepping back. And the fight really never took place towards the point. Valiant struggled just to get through the choke.
Yeah, the only person from the entirety of Valiant Guardians that even set foot on the point was Karo, and that was not supposed to happen at all and was swiftly dealt with, so it's just nothing. It's a non-push, and now Valiant Guardians, you know, they're either going to go down to match point already, set Washington Timeless up for success to just walk away with the whole thing, or they have to full hold and force a draw so that we go forward here. And in order to force that draw, you have to play near perfection. We talk about the tempo that Washington Timeless set. They're not afraid to slow it down when they need to and step on the gas when it's time to. And you know, once Sniper has a Gravitic Flux, that's when it's time to step on the gas. So all Timeless have to do is buy time, build up to those ults. And even if not the Gravitic Flux, Chloe's Blizzard is coming up just as fast. You've got the backliners pumping out all the healing to have their support ultimates up, ready to go all the time. Washington Timeless, this is easy mode for them.
And I think if you're Valiant, you can also learn to just take an L. Washington are not afraid to use ults just to stagger you. So if Valiant are okay with losing those fights and make sure you don't invest anything there, then that's how they can win based off of how Valiant can win based off of their own ultimates. But there's a first Mei wall there from HKey. Kind of isolates Sniper down to half health. Valiant holding close on this right side bridge, but this allows Washington to cross and take some cover on the fire truck. Now Valiant have cornered themselves. Sniper's putting on the pressure, but very low. Has the immortality there of Z, but a lot of important cooldowns from Washington are gone, and they're stepping on the point. Washington only need 33%, and Chloe brings a lot of attention towards herself, and Valiant remove her by force, and Washington can't keep the push going.
Haley is the first to fall, and now Valiant Guardians can breathe a sigh of relief because I'm sure they clenched once they saw that capture percentage ticking up and realized in real time, oh, we can only, like, if we give up even a tick, it's over. They did also lose Aramori, so Washington Timeless have an opportunity to retake some space here, and once Aramori is back, that window will close. But speaking of windows, Z's got one.
What an amazing Mei wall to deny a lot of the value of that Amp Matrix. Washington, like we said, it's a slow grind. You gotta take care of Wisp. This Bastion is emerging through the Amp Matrix. Sniper! It's in the name. Strikes them down, and Washington will be going to match point, and there's those fireworks. Nothing but celebrations coming out of our #1 seed.
And it's just like I said, you know, all that really needs to happen is Washington Timeless have to bide their time, play slow, and build up to that gravitic flux, because once Sniper has that, it is the death nail in the coffin for Valiant Guardians, and there is only one nail left. Washington Timeless has set themselves up onto match point. Valiant Guardians, whatever it is that they've been trying has not worked, and this Sigma mirror is just not it, Chief. I know that Moving Fish is something of a Sigma specialist, but right now they're just kind of getting outdone by the overall team play from Washington Timeless to set Sniper up for success. Sniper, I mean, had 3 gravitic fluxes across the entirety of that map. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but Moving Fish only got 1. And that was on Valiant Guardians' attack, which did go the full 4 minutes, but Washington Timeless, they didn't even need that much time. It only took one and done for Sniper to get the job.
Just the disrespect from Washington. The spawn touching, the spawn walling. I didn't even see that Chloe pick on the Wisp, walling them out of spawn like that. So disgusting. This was a cute little cancel on the grab flux there. Moving Fish did what they could. Washington were just really good at also moving through the choke, but not sitting out in the open. They used the cover of the fire truck, which had Valiant panicking. Do we shoot the 1 HP targets? What do we do against the people around the fire truck, or how do we deal with Sniper? There were just so many threats from the Washington side that Valiant got people low, but not killed, which was a big difference.
Speaking of threats, I'm looking at these Bastion stats and feeling quite threatened, as I'm sure Wisps is as well, because we talked about Snozzler being such a menace on the Bastion. Look at the damage that they're putting in, the limbs, and the just 1 death. Again, only having that 1 death is conducive to just, you know, it's because your team is just winning all the fights. It's because you're coming out ahead time and time again. But that is in no small part due to the pressure that this Bastion puts out, and no one is putting out as much pressure on this Bastion as Snozzler is. Wisps needs to step up on this hero. If we're going to keep this mirror alive, Wisps needs to try and make up the difference, flip the script, and make Snozzler be the one to sweat, because so far, it hasn't even been a drop on the brow of Washington Timeless.
Yeah, Wisp just has to be careful about how he positions outside of the shield there of Moving Fish. There were some moments I caught Wisp sort of on an off angle or just trying to get around these Sigmas. We kind of spoke about how you deal with a Sigma. You either break the shield with the Bastion, or you can maybe find some ways to angle around that shield. And with Midtown, the Midtown choke doesn't allow you for too many options around that. I saw Wisp trying many different things, coming up with ideas, but Bastion is that glass cannon, quite literally, and you do not want to be caught without a tank protecting you.
Is this where you kind of feel like you need to leverage some sort of other strategy, some sort of hero swap, some of that pick potential from the alleyway, or potentially a sim TP, but it never came out. Valiant Guardians sticking to their guns, and that may very well be the hill that they die on. And this hill, it's looking pretty deadly right now. Washington Timeless are on match point. It's Valiant Guardians map pick. We're gonna throw to a quick break. Don't go anywhere, chat. This very well may be the end unless Valiant Guardians speak up or fall. There is now only one map that stands between Washington Timeless and an entire Golden Tournament. How many times have we said it today, this weekend, last weekend, that they have not dropped a map? They have found themselves at Grand Finals. Valiant Guardians are the challengers that have stepped up, and Washington Timeless thus far have brushed them aside. If Valiant Guardians do not win this map, Washington Timeless will not only be the champions, but the golden champions, having not dropped a map, which is so insane to say over and over. Like, I can't stop myself from highlighting that over and over again. It's so crazy.
And the Washington Timeless have been the #1 team for a while. I mean, you just look at the circuit points. They're at something like 12,000, like clearly in the #1, clearly have pretty much almost booked that ticket to the championship already, with more Calling All Heroes events around the corner. But Washington is the team to beat, and Valiant Guardians, you know, have a bit of a different roster compared to Swiss. They've been really creative. They come up with good ideas. It's execution against a team like Washington, you called Washington flawless. I kind of agree. There are very little cracks to that armor, and Valiant haven't been able to exploit yet.
It's very hard to call them anything else but Washington flawless at this point. And Valiant Guardians, you know, Aramori did say in the interview that she thought that there were some cracks in the armor, but so far, Valiant Guardians haven't been able to exploit those cracks if they have even manifested. And as we go into our third map, which is going to be Flashpoint, we're going to Surasa. Is there even a whole lot of room to try potentially a new idea out here? Something that might actually get Valiant Guardians back on the board? Or will Washington Timeless just walk away with this one?
That's really tough. I think in the mirror, you clearly saw the confidence, the experience, just the play calling out of Washington Timeless. Like, they have really experienced players. Like, I know Haley or Halo. She is so smart. She's been playing the game for so long. And you could tell just by the pushes that Washington chose to take that this team it's hard to be outdone in the mirror. So what can Valiant Guardians do? Well, the Symmetra is always something that catches teams off guard, that forces panicky and sometimes rough decision making if you can force it quickly, but it's not something we've seen Valiant Guardians do. Of course, Genji is someone that can go in and of course do work and assassinate people before they can get healed up, because there were a lot of times where Valiant Guardians got people low but didn't have the finishing power to necessarily turn the fight. So maybe someone who, like a Sojourner or a Genji, something with pick potential can help Valiant.
Anything. You have to try anything. And Washington Timeless, like, they don't even have to worry about this, honestly, because they've gotten this far with what has worked, and nobody has broken them on even a single map. When you're this well practiced and you're this good on this composition, there is no reason for you to go back to the drawing board. But Valiant Guardians, they got to be in desperation mode, because there's no more second chances. From here on out, you have to beat Washington Timeless, or Aramori continues that curse of second place. Washington Timeless walk away with the golden tournament. We will have to decide what it is going to be, or rather the players will have to decide what it is going to be when we kick off this next map here. I think just a little bit more, still getting the lobby set up, a couple players still waiting on some things, but anticipation building. I'm imagining the coaching of Valiant Guardians is giving them a good talking to, giving them a good some good direction here, some good ideas, I hope.
Yeah, I know that Aramori gave a big shout out to Lep and just how really impactful the coaching has been from that player, of course, of Overwatch League caliber, and bringing that Overwatch League experience to Valiant Guardians, who have done a good job thus far. They've gotten to the grand final, but this is the final boss, and I think HKey has a tough matchup going against up against Bun, aka Chloe, on the Mei, where HKey has found themselves in positions where she's kind of jumping out in the open, trying to take that risk of getting that Mei wall onto Sniper, and sometimes just the wrong Bastion grenade, the wrong icicle to the face, and HKey finds themselves first picked, which sets the whole fight behind. But you've got to go for risks if you want to go for rewards.
It's going to be a pretty big risk regardless, no matter what it is that Valiant Guardian comes out with. Honestly, even sticking with what they are the most comfortable with, that might even be the biggest risk at this point in time, because they are just outclassed on it. Washington Timeless, better practice. They're finding the picks that they need to find. They're finding they're just finding value. They're playing this composition to perfection, and there have been a couple flaws in Valiant Guardians game, and there cannot be any flaws any longer. Surasa may very well be where they make their final stand or where they start the reverse sweep. Which will it be? There is only one way to find out. Chat, what do you think? Do you think this is all Washington Timeless's game to win with a nice, quick and easy 3-0, or do you still believe in the Valiant Guardians?
I think after that Midtown, your recency bias would have all your channel points on Washington, I almost said Justice, but Timeless. But Valiant Guardians, you got to remember that in the first fights of Antarctic, put up a seriously good fight. They looked like they were dominating the start of Antarctic. They were winning fight after fight, but retakes are very difficult. How they go for staggers has been punished. And Washington Timeless are a team that play with so much confidence. They don't hesitate, and in a composition like
With it.
Oh, Chloe, Bun on the Genji. Oh, this is gonna be good. But now you don't have a Junker Queen that can kind of give you that overhealth. You don't have an Ana to give you a nano boost. So Washington, it'll be up to Haley to maybe guide Chloe around these fights, especially up high. Being able to harass and pressure this high ground is going to deny this maybe from HP. We'll see how they will connect with Carol on the other side. So far, Chloe's been pushed back, and both Sigmas are colliding, but no clear winner so far.
I mean, and look at the health bars from Washington Timeless and how quickly they dip low. Right now, have a look at Moving Fishes, though, because theirs is very, very low. Washington Timeless are going to get first cap here, and Valiant Guardians, they've tried to push their way in, but they just got pushed right back.
That's a good cap and good patience out of Washington Timeless. And the Ant Matrix is coming up soon. We'll see if Snozler can have the jump in time to dodge it.
Moving Fish is ahead in the ult charge that Gravitic Flux, but Sniper is closing the gap there. Armory with an early Ant Matrix, though, might tip the scales in favor of Valiant Guardians. Timeless, they vacate the premises, but they pop one of their own.
Yeah, with all the space that Valiant got from the Ant Matrix, they never managed to flip back the point. Good timing from Z to allow that retake, to get Sniper in a good position. Removing Moving Fish is huge, and Washington can now deal with all the dominoes that'll fall behind them.
Removing Moving Fish, that's very poetic.
Right.
Removing Fish, very good. I mean, Washington Timeless, I mean, and they win that clean. It's just a rail shot from Snozler is all they really need to do that. Yeah, the Ant Matrix was invested early, but with just that one rail shot onto Moving Fish, who was winning the race to the Gravitic Flux, DNF, didn't finish. Now Sniper has the Gravitic Flux. It's going to be mirrored going into the second point. I don't think Valiant Guardians have even an attempt to cap this one. They're not going for it. Everybody is going to be looking towards that second checkpoint, but the fight looking like Washington Timeless want to cut Valiant Guardians off at the pass.
Moving Fish is having issues moving forward when the shield and Matrix is always broken, but they just need one person from Washington to step up so this Grab Flux can get some value. But Washington know what's coming, and they go back towards the point. Valiant are going to take angles. Caro and H-Key head to the left. This Flux is all towards Z, but Haley Sound Barrier saves Z from the dash of H-Key. No dash reset means the death of that Genji from Valiant. And everything about this push was calculated, but was read by Washington Timeless, who are now looking for more kills.
That was a frame-perfect sound barrier that came out there from Haley. Like you said, to save Z's life there and prevent the dash coming in from H-Key. But that said, that is a feat that has been invested, and now H-Key should have a free Dragon Blade if she's able to get the advantage of it. I think Chloe might try and go more aggressive with hers, so who is going to strike first? It's actually Snozler who's going to pop Q.
Oh, and that accretion knocks Moving Fish on their butt, and Snozler is knocking everyone back to spawn with this overclock. Washington Timeless, though, now maybe overextended a little bit. This blade is something. Chloe is dashing back towards the point with it, I guess. Kara also pops Sound Barrier, so I understand the hesitation from Chloe.
The Dragon Blade there from Chloe may very well have been a tail tucked between the legs as she scampers off as the rest of Valiant Guardians chase her away, and inevitably do dispatch her. A bit of a late stagger, and Valiant Guardians have found themselves on the board here, starting to tick it up. With Chloe dying that late, it's gonna be at least up to 50%, I believe, before Washington Timeless can mount a sizable offense here and potentially find the flip. H-Key still has her Dragon Blade. It might not even need it if Wisp gets anything with this overclock.
Wisp, it's open season! Snozzler's down, but the rest of Washington have managed to escape. They also have a healthy shield behind Sniper, so Wisp has done enough work for now. You may rest, but how long can they defend this for? They're about to take the lead, and Washington want to set up the Matrix, but Valiant go into hiding here in this corridor.
So there's a lot of moving parts to this next fight here. Sniper has the Gravitic Flux, and there is no sound barrier on either side. So it's the Gravitic Flux versus the Dragon Blade from HK, and it looks like the Gravitic Flux is what's going to come out first.
Ooh, the accretion barely misses there, and the immortality from Aramori only buys so much time, but actually Valiant are still living, and they fire back with an HK Dragon Blade to cut down the heals of Sniper, but eventually get punished while not able to find more targets. 99% in favor of Valiant, but Washington will be giving this up for free. There's still Z and I believe Chloe hanging around, and this is a close fight, but Chloe dashes right into the accretion of Moving Fish. So Valiant may just have won the point, but they have to deal with this Doomfist first.
I mean, Sniper is just donating an entire Doomfist life bar worth of ult charge over to Valiant Guardians right now, because you got to imagine they're going to swap off that Doomfist. That is not going to stick. They want to go back to that Sigma most likely and try and play for the next point here. And you know, it was a great attempt though to try and get that retake, but it was just too little, too late. Valiant Guardians have tied Surasa up 1-1, and both teams now linger, moving towards the next capture point. I believe Washington Timeless should be the first ones to touch here. But actually, no, it's going to be Moving Fish who's able to stake their claim.
Now, how this Gravflux is positioned, Washington are almost coming up from behind Valiant, and, well, they've caught them off guard for sure. Chloe dead in the water, though, and Moving Fish has some extra room to work with thanks to the sound barrier of Caro, and missing the accretion on Haley, not a big deal. Being able to conserve that flux, though, is pretty big, but Moving Fish is low, needs to Matrix a bit, and Snozzler gets one for the road. But are Valiant really safe here?
I mean, it doesn't look like it. I mean, it's an early pickoff onto Chloe. No Chloe means no Blade. No Blade means you can pop the beat to go aggressive, but now you don't have the beat for everything that Washington Timeless has, and that's a lot. Here comes that Blade.
Oh, Chloe barely dodging the Gravflux there, still gets one onto H-Key. And Washington have prevailed in this fight, and fairly inexpensive too. Look at the late stagger on the Moving Fish, but 52% is what they have to overcome.
I mean, 52% is what they're going to have to overcome, but look at the ult bank of Washington Timeless. That last fight, like you said, was very inexpensive. Only the Dragon Blade got invested. Sniper has a Gravitic Flux, and Caro, again, we go back to that previous fight. He does not have his sound barrier right now, so this Gravitic Flux is going to be solely countered by Aramori's Immortality Field, and we've seen before that that's not the most effective way. You have to have some follow-through, some way to snap back once you snap back to Earth.
Oh, Moving Fish brought back to almost full health immediately after getting hit by that Flux. Here's the overclock from Snozzler once Valiant have Moving Fish separated from the flock. And look at them go. Snozzler will not be stopped. 2 kills and more. Washington Timeless wipe the floor with Valiant.
I mean, that's just a perfectly timed overclock there from Snozzler. Like, we talked about how great they've been on the Bastion. They've been just as good on the Sojourn. The hit scan play from Snozzler is top tier, and that's why you can have a player like Chloe who's that flexible over on the Genji. But speaking of Genjis, is H-Key going to be able to get the better of Haley in this Dragon Blade versus Sound Barrier matchup? Nope, they're not even going to touch, actually. Valiant Guardians concede. Washington Timeless go up 2-1, and Valiant Guardians, they have to head for the hills.
Like this game of cat and mouse. Valiant just try to get to the point. They pop the Dragon Blade, but it's countered by Haley's sound barrier, so Washington Timeless chase them all the way to the point, and back to the sewers they go. Washington Timeless are cracked.
Wisp popped the overclock but doesn't get anything. Snozzler kills 3 without the overclock, and Sojourn Supremacy is firmly on the side of Washington Timeless. They win that without any ults, only the defensive sound barrier. They're going to get the first cap here. They have the Dragon Blade. They have the Ant Matrix. Valiant Guardians have nada. They have to try and build up to a sizable ult bank and make something stick because they have slipped. They got the first cap, but since then, it's been all Washington Timeless thus far, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
It's round point, match point for Washington Timeless. Chloe's got a blade, and you better watch out, Caro. A few % away from that sound barrier. Now they have it. Moving Fish goes for the Gravflux, gets stunned out of it. Sound barrier from Caro in response to the Chloe blade. that has already struck through the hearts of Valiant, who fall one by one, and it's back-to-back fights for Washington.
That might just be it. That might have been Valiant Guardian's best shot. Their last gasp trying to capture the point. They invest the sound barrier, but it's too late to save the DPS player who falls. They invest the gravitic flux, and they find nothing while Washington Timeless have one of their own. They have an Ant Matrix, and they're going to have Snozzler's Overclock, and we've seen how deadly they've been with that. If there is anything Valiant Guardians can do, they have to pull a rabbit out of a hat right now.
OHK is dead already. The headshot from Z. This is the last fight for the point. Round point, match point. And Valiant only floundered. They couldn't break through the choke. Not against the Sigma supremacy. Washington Timeless are your Calling All Heroes champions without dropping a single game.
Potentially one of the most impressive Calling All Heroes runs of all time. The Golden Tournament, the Golden Swiss round. They did not drop a map like you just said, and nobody was able to make them bleed even a little bit. Both Drainers and Valiant Guardians have at times made them sweat, but not enough to even get a single point on the board in the map head-to-head. The Washington Flawless, they will go down in history as your Calling All Heroes rise together Minor 3 champions without dropping a single map. It bears repeating, and we're going to repeat it until we're blue in the face because it's such an insane run that this team just went on.
Sniper, Snozzler, Bun, Halo, Z, Azure, Sahil, and Orion. Of course, with the back room that have supported this team for so long. What a run! Calling All Heroes champions, $2,500 Canadian richer with a ton of circuit points, enough to pad their way to the championship in February. This is a team that no other has been able to touch, to crack, to figure out. And you got to applaud them. Their career, their ceiling has no limits, and I look forward to just seeing what the future holds for them.
I'm sure they're looking forward to seeing what the future holds for them as well. They may call themselves timeless, but right now, they got nothing but time to look ahead because they will almost certainly be in our champions in a tournament in February 2024. They've got all the time in the world to prepare for that as they come out head and shoulders ahead of the rest of the pack, and they can watch and lie in wait as teams like Valiant Guardians, teams like Drainers try to just play catch up over the next couple of months. It's going to be a lovely thing to see. Can anyone topple the Washington Timeless? Not today, not in Toronto, not in Calling All Heroes currently. Right now, they are the best. They are the best team that Calling All Heroes has to offer, and I don't think anybody can even begin to doubt that after this performance this weekend, this past weekend. Everyone who has stepped up has been brushed to the side, and Washington Timeless, we'll say it again, they are your champions.
I gotta give a shout out to Haley. She popped off today. The perfectly framed sound barriers you pointed out, to the boops that allowed the first fight wins on Antarctic, to just being that fearless Lucio that you need in a composition like this. Haley has brought the masterclass of support to the realm, and I'm so proud of how far they've come to as a player and as a person, and I've just brought so much recognition to a platform like this to have a player like her play on it. So congratulations once again to Washington Timeless. Every single player on that team had their moment in the spotlight, had their impact in the match. There wasn't someone who was holding them back. They all popped off, and I'm looking forward to talking to them very soon.
I mean, yeah, they all more than pulled their weight. I mean, they pulled like double their weight. Like looking at all of the stats and all of the insane plays across the board, we talk a lot about Sniper and the Sigma head-to-head. We talk a lot about Chloe. We talk a lot about Snozzler. And of course, Haley, congratulations to her, but congratulations are in order to the entire team. So we're going to have a couple players from that team to give you an interview when we get back from this break to tell you how they feel to be your new Calling All Heroes champions. Not a new champion, but indeed a returning champion has been crowned once more. Washington Timeless are your Calling All Heroes Rise Together Minor 3 champions. And for some, it was never in doubt, especially for the group that we've got here today for an interview. We've got SNR, their coach, and Sahil, one of their players. How are you guys doing today? How are you feeling?
Pretty good, honestly. Yeah, I think we're all kind of expecting it, honestly, right? We felt really confident going into today. So I think it's just finally nice to like have the relief of it being actually done and in the books, you know?
And SNR, I want to address you too. Tell me about the work you and the team have done to prepare and improve over the season to get to this moment.
Yeah, so I'm not going to take a ton of credit. I think the players are all like really, really good, and they're also like insane work ethic. Like I think that's the biggest thing. The first week of the tournament is where I did most of my work, and I came in for a lot of the scrims and did review. But this last week, like honestly, I was pretty hands off for me. I didn't have it. Like I was also kind of busy, so I didn't get the big opportunity to do a lot. But I kind of told them direction I think they should take with the team, and they took it very, very well. And I think that, you know, a little bit of guidance, but I think it's like pretty much just 99% all the team, and they're very good at dealing with everything on their own.
You can see it in their gameplay, and I guess, you know, speaking of the team, I want to talk directly to Sahil. It's good to have you back on the broadcast after last week we had you on, because you guys were successful that week. You've been even more successful this week. So as a player, how does it feel to be a champion once again?
I mean, it feels good. It feels the same as the past few times. I mean, it's our fourth tournament, right? The fourth time we've won. And I mean, I don't know. It's like we worked hard, and I think we deserve it. I think all our players played really well, and it's just good to see our effort, like our hard work paying off.
I mean, the hard work paid off, paid a lot, actually. Congrats on the final. It was awesome to watch your team. SNR, we don't always get to see kind of the work. You pointed out some work ethic stuff. We don't get to see what happens behind closed doors or beyond the match. If you had like an award to give, maybe MVP or most improved player, who would that be? Because there's just so many stars on that team, and you've gotten to watch them grow and work so hard beyond the game. What do you think?
So I think MVP. I honestly, I don't necessarily want to pick someone because I think that's kind of, I think the team actually that did incredibly well, but I think like a big thing to take into account is like, even for the people that weren't starting, like whether it's like staff or like, for example, like Sahil as well, like they're just always showing up to scrims and like giving their input. So I actually think that's like where the biggest difference maker is made, is like, it's not that even though the players aren't necessarily, you know, playing every single map, they're actually just like with the team still contributing their ideas. So I think that's like actually the biggest difference maker, is that the people that even aren't playing are still like actively trying to produce like good results with the team. So I think that's actually like the biggest thing, is the people that didn't even like play the maps were still like actively trying to improve the team. That's what I'd say like the biggest thing is.
It does indeed take a village to raise a championship team, and you guys have done a phenomenal job of doing just that. But I want to ask you, SNR, as the coach, were you ever worried that your team might, I don't know, drop a single map?
No. I'll be honest, I got dinner reservations in 15 minutes. Like, I was not worried. Like, I'm going to be going like right after the interview's done. I was not worried. We got that unlocked. It was all good.
Yeah, he's not even lying, by the way. That's not a joke. It's just real.
Sahil, my last question to you is, how is the trust on this team? It sounds like, you know, the coach trusts you, but y'all have so many substitutes and different players from different experience levels. What is it like to be on that team?
I mean, I think it's just great. I feel like with the players we have, we're like super confident in any meta. We can like trust each other to be able to play whatever we need and play it well. Like, for example, in this meta, like Sniper is just like the best SIG player in the world. So I don't even need to like open the game, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I think I love playing with this team. I think we're gonna do well in the future tournaments too. And it's just, I think we'll continue doing well.
Well, you can definitely look forward to those future tournaments, because you will almost certainly be at the championships in February. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. We're going to go ahead and wrap this all up here, because it sounds like SNR's got places to be. But before we go,
Thank you.
First Sahil and then SNR in that order, I would like to pose this final question to you. Do you have any other closing thoughts or any shout outs that you want to give before we send you on your merry way for SNR's celebratory dinner?
You want to go first, SNR?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to the team for getting it done like quickly. So that's for getting me to dinner on time. That's the biggest shout out I can give. But yeah.
Yeah, shout out to everyone for no maps dropped. Shout out to the people who helped us warm up. I actually don't remember who it was because I wasn't home, but whoever you are, you know you are. Shout out to our manager, Debit. Shout out to Lily, Azure. Shout out to Orion, all the subs, me included. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time for this interview. It was great to hear about your story, and big congratulations once again on being champions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Well, there they go. There are your champions. Let's have a quick look at what it is that they were playing for and what they won. That grand prize that they get to walk away with. You can definitely buy yourself a couple of fancy dinners with that that 2,300 Canadian dollars and the 450 circuit points per player. That is, by the way, we failed to touch on that the last couple of times. That is per player, so a nice sizable chunk. But with all the points that they've already amassed, it's still just a drop in the bucket for who will inevitably be one of the favorites to take up the whole thing, the entirety of the champion.
Yeah, Washington, timeless. You love to see the support. I remember when they were like timeless, ethereal way back when, and people are starting to recognize that talent, that potential, and how unlimited their ceiling does seem to be. And I'm glad they've gotten the support from not only an Overwatch League team, but also the community. These are some of the best players that are going to rise to the challenge, rise together title, and also be the heroes of the next generation. So I'm so proud to be just watching Washington Timeless and their journey through their careers.
Well, like I've said, though, their journey does not stop. Can anybody topple them? Not in this tournament, it would seem, but there is another opportunity. Maybe you, dear viewer, could be the next one to take on the tyrants that are the Washington Timeless, as we have another tournament coming up in December. The Calling All Heroes Radiant Heroes Major 3 is going to be starting on December 2nd. It's going December 2nd and 3rd, then the next weekend of December 9th and 10th. Registration for that will open up later this month, so stay tuned to the Overwatch Path to Pro on Twitter if you want to get involved, if you want to come and show your stuff, and maybe make some of the best sweat.
And if you're not going to TwitchCon this weekend, then you'll want to tune in for the Collegiate Homecoming Playoffs that takes place on Saturday and Sunday. And if you're going to TwitchCon, let me know. I'll be there, man. And if you're not, then CB will keep you company for the Collegiate Playoffs.
I'll be there in the chat to support you. But hey, chat, it's been lovely having you guys all here. Thank you all so much for stopping by and supporting Calling All Heroes. It's been a lovely tournament. It's been an honor to be joined by the lovely Lemon Kiwi and also by Jag, Chef Billy, and K-Wing thus far. Calling All Heroes, of course, means a lot to me as a caster and as a fan of all of this talent, all of these players. It's a phenomenal program, and getting to see the talent that is on display here means the world to me. The visibility means everything. This is a place where you can succeed, despite being told time and time again maybe that you couldn't, that there was no place for you in esports. There is a place here in Calling All Heroes. So please come and join us and continue to support Calling All Heroes. Lemon, I'm going to throw it to you. Do you have any final words?
No, this is just an incredible platform. Shout out to Bailey and everyone behind the scenes that have put this together, that have made this a safe space. And for Toronto Defiant for stepping up and putting the banner on. Toronto has been incredible for the Canadian scene, but for the entire Overwatch community overall. And we hope that we'll see you all again for Major 3, for Homecoming Playoffs, for all the Overwatch community events until whatever the future holds. So thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.